Let's talk race, manhood, and power. Let's talk black empowerment, black building for all of these black children and all of these black women. We don't stress them, we protect them, provide and we lead, how we sticking to the essence. This race, manhood, and power, now peep the message. My brother Umuopara gonna change the perspective and teach the collective as we ride for our brothers, stand with our sisters, and ride for each other. Let's have a conversation for the young black nation, a bill with the minds, uplift the vibration. It's black liberation, and that's the foundation. So stick to the code, the truth shall be told. We liberate the mind, the soul, and the body. Race, manhood, and power with Umuopara. Tap in.
This rhetoric, we will continue.
And action.
And action.
All right, what's going on, y'all? We live.
What kind of action? Strategy to effect what in the United States of America? Let's start with us.
No wise general sits with a representative of the opposition to discuss battle strategy and battle plans before the entire world. I don't think that would be wise.
Rise of the righteous, libations pour on. The offense laid out from those who've been warred on. Intricate maneuvers, outcomes, metrics. Season power, those in tune get the message. We build a new out in LA. Trades are elevated, folks who can coordinated to set them straight. Meetings return to and black power gives the order to mapped out local and national targets. The Wall Street markets, offshore, of course, spent time on this part of the mission.
If the city does try to come in here and get you out, what are you going to do?
We're going to do what's necessary, man.
What is that?
But first, understand why he's coming in here.
What are you going to do?
All right? We're going to do what's necessary.
What is that?
The strategy of John Africa.
What is that?
Our only defense.
What is that?
The strategy of John Africa.
You aren't telling me anything. You're just saying the strategy.
I wouldn't tell my strategy to you.
Let's continue the progress, guided by Toussaint, by Nanny, by Chuck Africa. Let's move on. Youth are trained to land, sea, and air. Classes in reading, writing, error. Politicized on victories of take the first. That's priority to access accordingly. Simultaneous on the continent and not just monuments. We had who sat by redistribute to our groups. A decade marked by sustainable. Some lost, so in the end we gain more. Regalia, Africa too, it's Australia.
All right, peace, family. Welcome to actually a very special edition of the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast live. This is our first time going live using the Race, Manhood, and Power platform. So we have a very special discussion set up for you all tonight. That opening track, that was my brother Gabriel Prosser, better known as Brother Gabe, or the RBG General out of Philly. That was his track Strategy off his new album, Restoration. So y'all go check that out if y'all haven't checked it out already. And I'm just going to jump right into tonight's show. So as you already know, I always got to start with my obligatory welcome. So let me go ahead and get that together. So apologies too if y'all can hear the little 3-year-old running over my head, but it is what it is. This is not a pre-recorded show. This is live, so y'all going to catch everything live. So let me go ahead and get started. All right, family. So welcome to the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast, recorded live on location at the African War College, your temporary way station for African liberators. I'm your host and correspondent, Professor Umuopara, and you can find me online at umuoparaafrica.com and across all social media at Umuopara Africa. Here at the African War College, when we see a fellow African, we greet each other using the word Abibi Fahudie, which means Black liberation in the Tree language spoken by the people of Ghana. And while we recognize that it is easier to build apologies. And while we recognize that it is easier to repair, and wow, see, this is why y'all catching the live bloopers of my opening reel. So now y'all see I'm not reading from a teleprompter. This is all live top of the dome. So let me try this again. And while we recognize that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, at the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast, we are unapologetic in our assignment to restore manhood in our community, for there is no path to liberation that does not involve the resurrection of Black men. It took some time for me to get that. All right, so family, tonight we have a very special symposium lined up for y'all. I have a few guests who I'm going to bring on the camera in just a second. But tonight's symposium is Protocols of Manhood for Sovereign-Minded Men, right? Men whose mindsets are geared towards sovereignty, whose mindsets are geared towards nationhood, right? How should we operate with one another? What protocols should we have in place to ensure that we are advancing our objectives given the situation that we are currently faced with? So that will be the discussion tonight. Again, this is live, so please do engage in the chat. If you have questions directly for the panel, you can ask the questions and I'll present those questions to the panel. But before we get started, I just want to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors and then we'll come right back. All right, here we go. I want to give a major shout out to one of our supporters, Thread by Denise. They're a great source for your African influenced clothing and accessories. They have everything from skirts, bow ties, and tees. If you've ever seen me rocking that Nat Turner University shirt and you want to know where I got it from, well, I got it from Thread by Denise. Head on over there using the link in my description and use the coupon code MANHOOD to get 20% off your first order. The International Black Freedom Alliance. You can find out more about this org by visiting the IBFA.org. Once again, that is the IBFA.org. At the Black Freedom Alliance, they believe that Black people are smart enough, talented enough, skilled enough, resourceful enough, and resilient enough to organize our own freedom all by ourselves. The question is, do you believe the same? If you do, head over to the IBFA.org. Give a shout out to my brother, Tori Russell, who's running things over there. Tell him Umuopara Africa sent you from the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast. Color Compton is all about building communities across cultures and generations through history and the arts. You can visit their website at colorcompton.org. That is COLORCOMPTON.org. At Color Compton, they believe in the importance of knowing and focusing on histories of people of color. By exploring the roots of our ancestors in this land nationally and locally, we hope to educate all and build true coalitions across ethnic groups. So shout out to Color Compton doing great work out there in the city of Compton. The Black Family Blueprint is a Twin Cities-based company focused on the health, sustainability, and interpersonal dynamic of Black families. Black Family Blueprint aspires to support the social capital development of Black families by building internal and external practices of grounded coherency. The company employs an evidence-based model of practice while partnering with families and community organizations to best serve the well-being of family development. Please head over to blackfamilyblueprint.com right now. Head over to blackfamilyblueprint.com. This is an amazing business that is headed up by a husband and wife couple, my brother Adrian and his wife, Sister Oyolanda. Please do head over and tell them Professor Umuopara from the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast sent you. All right, I want to give a really big shout out to all of our sponsors for the podcast. As I always tell y'all, we couldn't have this podcast without the support of our sponsors, so I always tip my hat to them. If you want to support my sponsors, please do engage with them. Right in the description box, I have links to my sponsors. I also have affiliate links, so when you support them, you also support me. I actually have a new sponsor that I want to share with you all today, but before I do that, I just want to give a really quick announcement about what you guys can expect on the channel coming up in October. So I want to share my screen here just very quickly. Excuse me. All right. So during the month of October, my Race, Manhood, and Power podcast is going to be dedicated to a series. The name of the series that I am doing is The Souls of Black Folk, right? So, of course, not souls like W.E.B. Du Bois, but souls as in Thomas Sowell, right? I want to deal with this. I don't know. My brother Shaka Ra refers to it as the, what do you call it? The conservative industrial complex, right? The making and the shaping of the consciousness of our people, right? So the entire month of October, each of the episodes that I deal with on the podcast are going to be dealing with the souls of Black folk. So that's basically going to kick off on the 3rd of October. I'm going to have a very special Omawali After Dark that is going to be like the series opener. And then on the 4th of October, we have the hypergamous manhood of high value men. On the 11th, we have the political unicism of divestic politics. On the 18th, we have Black men and the negative impacts of low racial self-esteem. And then on the 25th, we have deacons of delusion and other acceptors of white supremacy, right? So that's an entire series. So you definitely, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, you want to subscribe. You want to make sure that you come in, hit the like button when you come in, share the content so you can help it to get out there, and you can help this message to spread. And then last but not least, what do I want to show you all? Apologies. This is our new sponsor, vpac2020.org. They are an independent school that's looking to develop. I believe they're out in Denver, Colorado, or at least the sister who's running it. I believe she's out of Denver, but we just had a very long conversation with them this past Friday, and they came on as a new sponsor. I mean, we're not really supposed to start running ads for them until next week, but like I was really sympathetic, right, to the story and what they're trying to do and accomplish with this particular program, the Victory Project-based academics and competency. Our sister, Dr. Ma'at, actually sits on their board for this particular independent school. So I would encourage you all to head over to their website. It's vpac2020.org and check out the good folks over there. It's ran by a sister named Dr. Osset. And she's a beautiful sister doing amazing work for our children, trying to build an independent school. So this is their website right here. Again, working with beautiful Black African children. This is Dr. Allset right here. So head over to their website and check them out. But I'll definitely be providing a lot more information on them now that they are helping to support the channel. We definitely want to have reciprocity. They're supporting us. I want to support them. So as my viewership, I would like for you all to check them out and support them as well. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And I want to bring my panelists onto the stream. What's going on, brothers? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
How are you? All right, let's get the cameras on. So what I want to do, family, first and foremost, I appreciate all y'all for being here with me tonight. This idea is something that myself and brother Carlton Jones, we put together. When was this? About 3 weeks ago, Professor Carlton Jones?
Well, maybe a month ago, but okay. But definitely within the last, the brainchild of it, came together over the last 3 weeks.
Okay. So essentially what we wanted to do is bring a group of brothers together so that we could have a conversation. And do me a favor, y'all, if y'all can mute when y'all not speaking, because there's going to be echo coming back because my board is literally going to pick everything up. But we wanted to bring a group of brothers together and have a group of sovereign-minded brothers together and have a conversation related to some issues just pertaining to sovereignty, right? How we look at it. So some of the things that, I initially thought of was like conflict resolution, marriage. All right. Apologies. Conflict resolution, marriage, rearing children, rituals and celebration, accountability and punishment, and then community preparedness was the last thing. So what I want to start by doing is just having each of the brothers like turn their cameras on and introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the conversation. Baba Baruti, you the elder. I'll let you lead off.
Greetings, UNIAACL family. My name is Umuopara. I am co-founder, co-director of Africanism Institute. I'm also the co-founder, co-director of Africanism House Publishing Company. The school has been in existence for years, and I've authored books with dealing with us and what we need to do in this move towards sovereignty.
Appreciate you, Baba. Brother Jeff Weaver, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, greetings. My name is Jeff Weaver. What I say, I'm an educator, author, lover of liberation, sovereignty, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to the brother asked me to be here, Brother Umuopara. I have respect for him, everyone on the panel, and I'm deeply concerned about Black people, and so that's why I'm here.
Appreciate you, Brother Jeff Weaver. Brother Shakara, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, Abibi Fahodie. My name is Shakara. Member of the Al-Qibla Revivalist movement. One of the ambassadors of the UNIAACL. I'm a Universal African Nationalist, Garvey organizer, educator, artist in our community.
Appreciate you, brother. Brother Shamari.
Greetings, Eric Grimes, Brother Shamari out of Philly, host of Groundings, Evolutions, Elevations with Brother Shamari. Wrote a book a while back called Why Children Hate Us, How Black Adults Betray Black Children. And pleasure to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
All right, appreciate you, Brother Shamari. Brother Carlton Jones, last but not least.
Peace and power and love to everybody on the panel. Name's Professor Carlton Jones, or you can just call me brother. That works too. I'm the creator of the Independence Day Project film. Film asks two basic questions leading to our sovereignty. The first question is, what does an independent Black community free of white supremacy look like to you? And then the second question is, what do we need to do to create that society for free-minded and liberated-minded Black people, specifically African-centered Black people? And I'm happy to be here. I have a podcast show, a couple shows of our own, and one airing on Wednesday. What does it say? What do we say, Shamari? Somebody had to say it. So, I'm happy to be here. It's always a great opportunity to build with such excellent brothers. So.
All right, appreciate you, Brother Carlton Jones. And Brother Carlton Jones, you don't know this, but you're my co-moderator, so you're not a guest here on the panel no more, bro. So you know what I mean. If you have any questions for the panelists throughout the night, feel free to shoot. All right. So family,
I'm glad it's juice in this cup.
What was that?
I'm glad there's juice in this cup.
All right. Real quick, since we live, I just want to shout out a few people in the chat before we get started. Shout out to you, Brother Eric Cunnings. Appreciate you for joining. Brother Uwa, appreciate you for joining. Kofi Pese TV. Achille Achibi, that's one of our sponsors. Sister Awa, appreciate you for being here. And then Trigger Happy 262 Plus, appreciate you for being here. If y'all have any questions for the panel as well throughout the night, you can leave them in the chat and I'll be sure to ask them. All right. So let me go ahead and let me ask the first question. So the first question deals with conflict resolution. What is the role of conflict resolution in nation building? And are there any current protocols for conflict resolution among men? And if not, what should they be? So I'm going to start with that question and I'll present that to anybody on the panel. And again, if you weren't in the back chat earlier, I said that y'all all have political or politician privilege. And what that basically means is if you ask a question to a politician, they answer the question that they want to answer. So I gave you my question, but as long as you stay within the spirit of the discussion, you have free reign to put on the table what you desire to see put on the table. How y'all want me to call on folks or no? All right, Brother Shamari, Brother Shamari, you go ahead and get us started.
All right, can you repeat that question? It has a lot of layers to it. I know it has something to do with conflict resolution.
Right.
Yeah. So the question was like, what is the role of conflict resolution within a nation building project, right? Are there any current protocols for conflict resolution among men? And if not, then what should they be?
We're all familiar with the saying divide and conquer. So if we don't want to be conquered, got to figure out how not to be divided. And that's where the conflict resolution comes in. So it's essential, right? Like one of the challenges we have as a people who are trying to overcome being conquered to gain our sovereignty is that we're not operating. We have them. I mean, our history, I don't care whether you're any spiritual system. I don't care if you go back to ancient Kemet, the instruction of Ptah-hotep, like we have protocols, right? We're people of protocol. I think we forget that sometimes. People always want to make us these creative, people like we don't have rules, like we're all in motion. And yet you can't build the civilizations and empires that we come from without a sense of protocol, without a sense of responsibility, accountability, duty, and all of those things. And so the importance of it should be without question. But I think that when you lose your sovereignty, you lose the respect for protocol, because you have to be driven by a sense of duty and obligation and responsibility. I have a saying, a shirt that I make is called Me, and when people read the shirt, they see it and it says me, and that's what they think it says, but it's a greater than sign, and it stands for mission greater than ego. And I think that one of the protocols we have to be about for people who are pressing towards reclamation of our sovereignty is that our mission towards that has to be the thing. It has to be the fulcrum. When you're on the scale, the thing that calibrates the measurement is called the fulcrum. And that fulcrum has to be, does this moment and how does this moment advance the mission? And that has to always supersede the ego of the person in the moment. And so I could go on forever about that, but at the end of the day, yes, it's essential. We have them. We don't have them at a general level such that that's the code of conduct of us as men in general. But there are certain, if we're in part of any particular spiritual system, if we've been initiated, if we're in cadre, of course you can't have cadre without forms of conflict resolution. So clearly they exist. We have to make it our job that becomes the operating standard for general Black manhood. And I think that's the work that we have to undertake.
I appreciate that, Brother Shamari. Welcome to the panel, Baba Kamal Rashid, and shout out to Brother Bomani. I see you in the chat. I'm going to send that up to Baba Baruti. I'm going to let you riff off what Brother Shamari just put on the table. If you need me to repeat the question, please let me know. And Baba Baruti, if you're speaking, you got to unmute. All right, there you go. I think I just unmuted you.
I got to
Yeah, you're good now. I just unmuted you.
And I love listening to Shamari speak because he's always defining things. Okay. I was first introduced to him in Brother Carl T. Jones's video. And I appreciate the definitional aspect and both points that he made. We have to identify where we're trying to go, what this sovereignty thing is, what we're trying to get. And of course, we know that that's, empowerment of African people. And that's going to come through a lot of work. And no matter what your relationships are, there's going to be conflict. Period. I'm not aware of any point in time in human relations where there wasn't conflict between people. Of course, the question is that allow conflict to not disrupt the process, because we're seeking order in our movement. We're seeking order as we move forward. If everybody, and I know this is an oversimplified statement, everybody understands a vision, just like in complementary relationships between a man and a woman, the probability that they're going to succeed is much greater if both of them have a vision that's greater than both of them. That's a given, I think. So if we're going to move in that direction, and if you know and are able to identify those people who are going to be moving in that direction with you, then part of that identification has to be an understanding and agreement that our vision is there, and we're trying to get there as one movement, so as one people, so we're not divided, so that we're not from within. Our ancestors, as Brother Shamari said, our ancestors laid down the rules. We're trying to remake the wheel. We're trying to make it so that these are made, so that they are followed, so that we are doing the things that we need to do relative to the guidelines. Because if we are or become who they say that we're supposed to be, then those conflicts will be resolved because the vision is higher than us. It's greater than that conflict, whatever it may be.
Appreciate you, Bob Baruti. Brother Kamal, in case you missed the question, I'll repeat it for you because I know you just joined. The first question, or the first topic, is on conflict resolution. The question was, what is the role of conflict resolution in our nation building project? And as a caveat to that, I asked, are there current protocols in place for how men should deal with conflict? And if not, what should they be? Brother Jeff Weaver, I'll head over to you. You got to unmute, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would concur with both Brother Shamari and Baba Baruti just said. I would echo that. I would put it in my own words and just say that we have to look past where we're at. We have to be able to see ourselves sovereign. And when you have that vision, you have to protect that, and protect that with everything. Like, you have to live and die for that. And you have to believe beyond the standard definition of belief. Like, it has to be deep within you that I will live and die on that principle, that we are going to be sovereign. We are going to be free as an African-centered people. And once you have embraced that wholeheartly, then you hold everybody else accountable. So those who say that that's what they stand on, and if we say that, then we hold each other there. So whatever conflict comes up, it's never something large enough that would supersede what we're coming together for. And that has to be the standard. That's the standard that we honor. And that's the standard that makes us respect one another as we each commit to this journey. I won't call it a struggle. I'll call it a journey, because it's going to be finished. And it's going to be, whenever it's finished, whether it's in the next generation, my son's children, but it's going to be finished. And we will be sovereign. So it's hard work and it's dedication, but honor and respect are very big, because we have to honor the process. We have to honor what it is that we're striving to make happen in order to make it happen. And, so those are the things that make men not allow small things to interfere with what we are moving toward, our destination. And that's liberation, that's sovereignty, and in an African-centered way.
I appreciate that, Brother Jeff. That first question, the reason why it was essential was because I think that in this new social media age and this new technology age that we exist in, it presents us with new challenges that we have to figure out a way to incorporate old solutions to. And one of those challenges is how we deal with conflict, specifically conflict that may emanate from social media. Like how do we address that, put it to bed, resolve it, so that we can continue to move forward without it hampering our efforts. So Brother Carl Tone Jones, Brother Kamal Rashid, or Brother Shakara, if y'all want to add to that, y'all can. And then I'll move to the next question.
Okay, I'll jump in there.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna go right back to the question. And I haven't heard anything wrong yet in terms of the answers or responses, in terms of the protocols, in terms of things that are needed, and the purpose, vision, and goal. And I think one of the things is I think, and one of the things I respect about all the brothers here is that from what I know of you all, you're all visionaries. You can all picture something and picture something bigger than you, which has been reiterated several times. So I think we need to also practice a little bit more of that whole Sankofa piece that we talk about, where we go back to how issues were resolved in the past, and we go to the place where there's a council, and there's a respect for the council and a respect for the process, and then generating and then in respecting the process, respecting the council, then you understand that you have to submit to the process. And I think a lot of times we talk about ego in our community, we don't really look at it from the perspective of sometimes submitting to another man or submitting to a process is not an indictment of your manhood. And I think that one of the things that, and specifically with the social media era, I think that it happened so fast. I don't think a lot of us is really ready for it. I don't think a lot of us was ready for the responsibility that comes from it. And I think that in addressing it now, I think this is a perfect time to sort of set the standard for how those things happen. But, creating a standard to where if you do it here, you also have to come here, show your face in the same place the disgrace took place, and be accountable in that way, and also work the back channels too, so that we don't repeat the same errors, the same messages. I mean, the same misunderstandings, or sometimes blatant disrespect. So we can make that place, because I'm gonna tell you that second part is so much harder than the first part. But that's where the accountability of manhood comes in, because humility and being humble is also part of what we're trying to build in grace. So, I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna just keep it there. But I think that, like I said before, we've had counsel before, and respected counsel, and however the council dealt with the parlay, that was the end result. And I think we need to sort of like bring that back. So, Abiba Faodie, Ashe.
Yeah. First of all, it's a pleasure to be among such illustrious brothers, and the honor is none higher than sharing this platform with Baba Mwalimu Baruti in particular. So I just want to say that before going into my answer to the question, which is I think we have to, there is no nationhood and sovereignty without conflict resolution. As Baba Baruti has said, no society has existed free of conflict, right? So it's an essential component. And I think it's an essential component for us coming from where we're coming from, particularly because we live in and exist in environments and communities that, because of our condition, are often prone to violence. And it's nigh impossible to develop community and nationhood whilst violence is still taking place. And so in order to get to the point where we're actually able to develop and build, we have to resolve the violence, yeah? And I say that to say that one of the roles or some of the examples that we can use are to be found among brothers and sisters, but mainly brothers in our community, some of whom I know, who actually engage the work of mending and bringing balance and conflict resolution between so-called gangs, yeah, that we call street organization, which is infinitely difficult work because of the nature of the violence. And you're talking about bodies on both sides of an equation, but there are brothers and sisters in our community who are able to do that work and have some success doing it. And so I feel like we're even among problems that are not so acute, there are principles and values that we can draw from that work, in order to develop conflict resolution strategies and frameworks around our own communities. That's one example. Then there are other examples that we can draw from traditional indigenous societies, like among the Tswana people, you have what they call Gotla, which is like a community kind of court system. You have the Gakaka, I believe it's called, among the Banrawanda people. These are the systems, of community resolution and restoring balance in communities that we can learn principles and values from to institute in our communities wherever we are. But it is an essential component. And having said that, just to big up Brother Omowale and Brother Carl for providing an example of that, this conflict resolution element. I believe it was last week's show. Just appreciate that public presentation, because as Brother Carl just mentioned, the disagreement was public and it spilled out publicly, and it was only correct that you came to demonstrate the resolution publicly as well. And I personally very much appreciate that. So big up to yourselves and the brothers, the elder brothers who stepped in to mend the breach and call you both to account, and respect to you all for coming to account and being made accountable.
Appreciate that, Brother Shakara. Dr. Kamal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the topic as well. It brings to mind a number of conversations that I would have with Baba Hannibal, Afrique back in the day, as well as a number of conversations with Baba Sanyika pertaining to this. The first thing that I thought of when you gave the question is it made me wonder, what is the African wisdom that deals with this? Because I think to Baba Mwalimu Barudi's point, conflict is inevitable, right? In any organizational context, whether it's the familial, whether it's an institution, and so on. But conflict is also much more likely to be exacerbated in something as intense and as difficult as what it is that we're engaging in. And to me, on a certain level, one of the things that's key here is what our commitments are. That is, what are our commitments to the broader vision? How do we conceive that broader vision? What is the worldview and the value orientations that inform what it is that we're doing? So I want to just share very quickly something from the Odu Ifa, which is the sacred text of the Yoruba people. And I'll just read the English translation, which says, "Let us not engage the world hurriedly. Let us not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. That which should be treated with mature judgment, let us not deal with in a state of uncontrolled passion. When we arrive at a cool place, let us rest fully. Let us give continuous attention to the future. Let us give deep consideration to the consequences of things, and this because of our eventual passing." One of the reasons why I love that particular Odu is because it encourages one to be fully attuned to the consequences of one's actions. It's like a piece from the text of the Egyptologist called the Eloquent Peasant, where he says, don't act lightly, for you are weighty, right? Each of us are shaping the history of the future in this moment. And if we're concerned about our capacity to free ourselves, then it behooves each of us to operate from that kind of intentionality in what we do. And so I think so this isn't necessarily the conflict resolution part itself. This is also the thing that precedes that, right? What are the state of mind, the type of orientation, value orientations that leads us, that informs our interaction with each other? And finally, what are the value orientations that informs how we navigate those situations? If we are concerned about the sustainability of our relationships, we deal with conflict very differently than if we believe these relationships are meaningless. I'm sure all of us have had the experience of dealing with folks whom you don't plan to keep dealing with, right? So you deal with them very differently than people whom you have to see the next day and whom you have to anticipate dealing with for years and years and years on end. And so I think there's a certain value orientation that's critical here in terms of this idea that we are attempting to build something, we are attempting to engage in something which is intergenerational work. And so we have to move. And I think the last thing I'll say, and it takes me back also to Baba Hannibal. And, he would, in his in the last decade or so that I interacted with him, one of the things that Baba Hannibal would constantly be concerned about our shortcomings as nationalists. He would always say that we needed to hold ourselves to a higher standard of personal accountability. And that sticks with me all the time. And I think about that in everything that I do. I think one of the things that Baba Hannibal was very much concerned about, and this goes directly, and I heard one of the number of the brothers mention counsel earlier, he was very much concerned about the fact that we had not sufficiently institutionalized structures in our community that would deal with this job of holding people accountable and help to resolve conflicts and so on. And I think, there are some organizations that have been intentional about building elders councils. I've seen organizations full of elders and there's no elders council and there's no one who's been designated to resolve conflicts, though conflicts abound. And so I think that it behooves us to adhere to the wisdom of our ancestors and to be very deliberate when we're building organizations, as we're thinking about the person that does this and the person that does that. As we think about the type of the various areas of activity, the various areas of work, and we assign people to those things, also to build within those organizations this mechanism that facilitates this process of dealing with conflicts within the group, whether it be a council of elders or others or some other type of body. But I think it is largely a failure of organizing on our part that we haven't built those kind of structures into our organizations and institutions. And so we should be unsurprised when we see organizations that fall apart because of conflict. I've seen organizations where people are embroiled in conflicts that are 20, 30 years old, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not saying that you may not have ill feeling for something that happened 20 or 30 years ago, but there should be structures in place in these organizations that enables the work to carry forward despite these incidents, these disruptions disruptions in what should be the harmony of the process. So I think, again, we have to be very intentional in building those, institutionalizing those structures to help resolve conflict in our struggle if we intend to win.
Okay, appreciate that answer, Dr. Kamal. Now, really quick before we go forward, I do have a question from the chat. But before I read this question, I'm going to throw this question to you, Bob Baruti. But I feel like I did something wrong at the beginning because I gave a privilege without giving the corresponding responsibility. So I gave everybody the privilege, the politician privilege, right? So you can riff, you can do whatever is necessary. But now I have to give you the responsibility. So I'm going to see if we can all keep our responses within 1 minute if possible. And then if you need to say, anything in addition to that, I can throw you an extra 30 seconds just so everybody can feed off of each other and seed the ground here. So I gave y'all the privilege. Now I'm giving y'all the responsibility, right? So Bob Baruti, I want to throw this question to you. This is from somebody in the audience. Brother Richard White, apologies. He says, should each black man be approaching each other with the assumption that we are sovereign thinking? Therefore, our interaction protocol with each other is negotiating terms of resoluting challenges? So maybe even the first part of that question might be a good part to answer. Should each black man be approaching each other with the assumption that we are sovereign thinking?
And I would say no. And the answer surprised a lot of, but we live in a reality where we have a whole collection of us who want nothing to do with being. So, you walk into those situations responding or acting toward people as if they're on the same way you are in terms of how you're thinking. One of the things that Brother Kamal talked about, which really needs to be addressed, is our community. Amos Wilson talked about, I'm trying to put in this how the economy exists before currency. It's a set of relations to the degree that they should be, even within the center community to a significant degree. So in order for me to be able to do that, to interact with each man that I encounter, then I have to know that we're part of a community operating with a particular sovereign vision. And therefore, whatever I say or whatever we do or whatever they say or whatever they do should be in line with that. And any deviation from that, problematic. In terms of the with the political license, in terms of the Elders Council, that also fits into that communal or community sense of existence where the elders don't come from somewhere else. The elders are established parts of the community, and the community has established them as a council. Therefore, say is everybody understands it's for the good of the community. The problem then becomes a question of enforcement, which we don't talk about a lot in terms of conflict resolution at a communal level. You can talk about an individual level, but in terms of communal level, you have to have the ability to enforce, because that accountability isn't just there just because it's there. It's something that has to be homegrown, if you will. So when I'm going to speak to Africans, or I'm going to respond to African centers and respond to African center. Other folks, I'm going to respond to them the way that they are, assuming that they don't understand really what sovereignty means or what we're trying to get to in terms of sovereignty. That doesn't mean they can't get there. That just means that at that point in time, I'm making that assumption because I need to be careful in what I say so that I'm not attacked in a way that moves me off of my path.
Appreciate that, Bob Baruti. The next question here, family, deals with marriage, right? With the family being one of the vital institutions of a sovereign people. What is the role of marriage and the thinking of a sovereign man? Like, how do we approach marriage and our development and our preparedness for adulthood? Like, so Brother Shamari, I'm going to toss that to you first. You laughing, Brother Shamari?
I might be the only unmarried dude on this panel, so I'm cracking up a little bit because I came up. It's funny. My answer on this has definitely changed over my life. I see the 60-second timer. Man, I gotta go first and get the 60-second experience. I was the only one the last time that followed the rules. Okay, hold on. All right, we're gonna do this.
I'm starting over for you. Go ahead.
It's something that I've come to this conclusion. If you had asked me this a few years ago, I'd be like, no, man, it's all good. I'm the lone wolf. You know, sometimes you got to be an ace and not a king. And I would have given you this whole card archetype. Man, forget all that stuff, man. Marriage is an essential part of, Dr. John Henry Clark has a quote, one of my favorite quotes. Slavery was a war against African culture, but most especially against the structure of the African family, the Black family. And if we're about being sovereign, we have to reconstruct the Black family as the pillar of our sovereignty. And marriage on our terms in our way is an essential part of that. I'll be 56 this year. Took me 55 years to really embrace and appreciate that. So now I just got to find the right person to embrace and appreciate that with. But I'm all in on the marriage team. Go marriage.
All right.
Go Black love marriage, I mean.
I'm gonna toss it to you, brother. Professor Carlton Jones is on you.
Yeah, you come to the two single brothers on the panel. I think that, and similar to Brother Shamari, I came along this path not knowing. I won't say I didn't think it, but not knowing if it was necessary. Sometimes in the past, I even looked at it as, seeing myself as a warrior in this struggle or in this fight. I said, wow, well, if I had a wife and children, that might keep me, I might not be able to be as mobile. But hindsight 2020, I realized you can accomplish so much more bringing that family unit together. And, through the teachings and learnings of the last few years, more so than ever, understanding that, the power and instruction, actually in the filming of the Independence Day Project, we talked about culture. We talked more so about the need as family being the foundation to it all. So I'm off the clock. All right. I
was about to give you an extra. I was going to give you an extra 30 because I felt like you wasn't ready to land yet. So,
No, we good. But family is the foundation. We can't, without family, you don't have a culture. You don't have a nation.
All right, my brother Shaka Ra, come on, bring it home for us.
I'm just gonna simply say that it's a requirement. Marriage is a form of organization, and African sovereignty is about different levels of organization, and I think that it's essential because it is one of the most effective and efficient ways to transmit the African worldview and African sovereign thinking through generations. I'm a product of an African-centered father, mother, and then second mother, right? You know what I'm saying? Because my mother, my biological mother and father weren't married, but my father and my second mother are married. And so my job is to transmit that to my children. I have one so far. work on the next one. So I think that that is the essential component, that it gives us the power to translate this through generations.
Brother Jeff Weaver.
Yes. Well, marriage is a microcosm of a nation, right? So for my wife and I, like I'm grateful that I had enough sense and foresight when I was in my 20s to invest in my wife. And, you know, I think about that a lot. Where would I be had I not been with my wife? And it's a scary thought. But I realized that nation building, on a macrocosmic level, starts with the microcosm of the family, right? So my wife and I together and my son have created a nation, if you will. And so it takes those bricks and cement to build this house of a nation, right? Because we are rebuilding ourselves after our house has been torn down. And so I look at marriage and I approached it from that method at a young age. So a lot of things that I did not understand, or I was not thorough in my understanding of, I should say. But that was one thing that luckily enough I had the sense enough to invest in. And it's because of my marriage that I know that I have the confidence to know that we can build this nation. You see, because I understood, because there's a lot of marriages that are not working. And so I can see it's a lot of work and dedication, but it takes like-spirited individuals. And let me be clear, man and woman. It takes a like-spirited men and women to build marriages and families. And each time you do that, you're placing another brick on this nation that we are striving to build. So for me, it's an essential part of the process. I believe the brother, I'm sorry, your name, brother, in the white.
Brother Shakara.
Oh, Shakara.
Brother Shakara mentioned that it's essential.
All right. Appreciate you, Brother Jeff Weaver. Brother Kamal, I'm going to kick it over to you. Let me throw on this timer.
No problem. No problem.
It's on you, brother.
I'm going to try to make this as succinct as possible. Bob, I believe it was Nana Ajakoto that made the point that the family is the basis for a whole range of skills related to nation building and nation management, right? So the Council of Independent Black Institutions talked about 6 levels of institution building: food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education, and defense. The family becomes a place where skills in all 6 of these areas can be cultivated, where it can be nurtured, where people can get acclimated to the basic skills and knowledges that are conducive to the building blocks of sovereignty for African people. So the family is exceedingly important for all the reasons that everybody said. But also, I think if we're serious about the family, we have to commit ourselves to supporting families. That is, we have to create support systems for families in our community, recognizing that they can't stand on an island. Also, I'll lastly say, I think the family is a type of rite of passage. You know, one of the things is a Wolof proverb that says, if you want to learn patience, take a wife. And I think the inverse is true. If you want to learn patience, take a husband, because I think the family becomes a place where we can refine ourselves, develop our character through the process of having a family and parenting. I'm out of time, so I'm going to stop.
I'll toss you another 30 seconds. I'm not, we're not going to be rigid here. I'm just saying, I'm, just trying to, keep that shot clock in your mind and let you know when you got to get your shot off. Baba Rudy, you don't get a shot clock, Baba Rudy. The floor is yours. I don't know. Baba Rudy, are you frozen? All right, there you go.
Still muted.
All right, there you go.
I just want to add on that there's nothing that's been said again that I would. I just want to say that there's nothing that's been said that I disagree with. It's the structure, it's the foundation. I like that building block. We're laying the next brick. analogy. That's perfect. I would ask. Would also ask. Understand Urugu. Urugu has, of course, attacked the family first, which is already been said, and that's been his most enduring attempt. And we have to look at what Urugu attacks. He doesn't attack anything are specific, very directed in their us. Has been the second part of that is that marriage has been the target. Not it seemed like something big, but this is 30, for Enia and I never encountered in my life, and just like everyone been through stuff, but I've never encountered anything in my life that is this difficult. Anything is this difficult. It makes us stronger because it requires sacrifice, something that we see repeatedly in the old do. I mean, over and over and over again. The importance of struggle because it makes us stronger. So if Urugu is smart, which Urugu is, then you make us turn us against the main institution that makes us stronger than anything else. To be married makes you stronger in my life than anything else that has happened to me. So you turn us away from, you turn warriors to make them strong. And one of the things they've turned us away from is the marriage, is the marriage institution. And we need to bear that in mind. If we're talking about Urugu like they're dogs, which they are, which really is an insult to dogs, but the dogs, which they are, then we need to look at why we're not dealing with certain issues ourselves, which will make us stronger on the front line.
Appreciate that, Baba. I want to bring a question here. So M.A. Benaya, apologies if I'm messing up the name. But the question is, it says, we are discussing the place of marriage, but not of the non-married within nation building. Perhaps that's something that should also be discussed. Yeah, and I agree, because I think that as of late, especially on social media, the crisis and social pairing and African pairing between Black men and Black women has been highlighted and discussed, but it's often not discussed from an African-centered or Afrocentric perspective. So having a group of esteemed sovereign-minded men, I would present this question to the panel, and addressing, I guess, the crisis that we currently see in African pairing. One of the critiques that I know often comes from the male side is that their female counterparts that they see are being socialized in a way. Professor Carl Tone Jones, you might have to help me with this question, but they're being socialized in a way that do not necessarily make them suitable for marriage. And as someone who's been married, I'm going on 10 years myself, I have to do a lot more listening because I haven't been out there kind of like in the dating world in almost a decade. So I'm not exactly sure what the brothers are kind of like, up against in terms of when they are, looking for a potential partner to engage in marriage with. So Professor Carl Tone Jones, why don't you help me here from a sovereign-minded man, if standards and behavior are currently one of the biggest issues that we have for many men, how do men go about addressing that challenge? Because many would argue that it's not the man's place to speak to the behavior and standards of the woman. But I want to hear what the sovereign-minded men have to say on that particular issue.
Yeah, I vehemently disagree with the statement that's made that as a Black man that I can't critique our women. I think there's nobody in our community that goes without critique. So, but when you talk about what's happening in our society, I think that because we have regressed so much from our culture, I think that even the culture that benefited us 100 years ago, we've regressed a lot from that. So there is no standard for anybody right now. I think it's up to the brothers to hold women to a higher standard. And that for brothers, that means we have to be more disciplined and we have to be more intentional about our relationship with women. Because what's been happening is because we have not had our own standard, we sort of been pushed to the place where we react to everything they do. instead of saying this is the standard and this is how you need to come if you're going to be suitable for a brother of stature, brother of note, especially an African-centered brother. So I think that one of the things that that needs to take place in regards to that is the idea of, you know, us being loose with our seeds, playing this game sexually with our women, letting women know that this is not certain behaviors, promiscuity is not desired in terms of building a nation, things of that nature, addressing the fact that our women have, for you know, I just got to say it, have co-aligned themselves with white feminist ideals that sort of make them oppositional to being cooperative with brothers, specifically the type of brothers that they claim that they're interested in. So, you know, we're dealing with a whole menagerie of things, but I think it starts with the brothers having a certain type of standard for the type of women that they'll receive in terms of being a wife. And then you know, there's another part of the conversation too, but you know, we can get to that to another time, because I think as Black men, we need to start building an economy amongst ourselves so that we can start empower and create these institutions that are necessary for our community. And I think that also will lead to more balance in regards to our relationship with our women right now. But, you know, so that's just, you know, and I don't know what the shot clock was on, because
it's over. Your shot clock been up, but, you know, I just, you know, I'm being gracious to it. Go ahead, Brother Shamar.
Yeah, no, I don't know how this is going to land, but I think that one of the things we got to deal with, just like we asked the question about the essential building block of marriage, this idea that single is a thing needs to really be dealt with. Like the fact that, you know, being single is a choice option that in this capitalistic culture, because I could understand if I'm a commodifier, it's easy for me to commodify you when you're a lone wolf and you're single. And this idea that being single is an acceptable choice option, right? That's part of the divide and conquer thing. That's the disruption of the family dynamic. It's essential to oppression. So I think that even at a higher level, getting back to the question that was asked, like this idea, being single is really a transitory thing that is a result of not completing a rites of passage or not being assigned and submitting to the rules of the village about who you can marry with. It's only a thing because we're getting married based on emotions and feelings and not protocol, duty, and nation building, the standards. And I think that that's what we got to disrupt. Like we live in a culture that has made it honorable as grown, mature folks who say that they're about sovereignty to actually think that being single is a choice option. And I'm not sure that we need to entertain that choice option in any real way. So once we eradicate that option, then the question becomes, how do we construct Black family and Black nation, given that there's no such, because the single among us, those are the ones that are exploitable. You know, it's like the person who just kicked out the Lion Kingdom when it's that time. Their job is not to wander in purgatory forever. Their job is to go find another kingdom to either take over or become a part of. There is no honor for us, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but we got to take the honor out of this idea that adult, mature, sovereign people have a goal of being single. That means you've chosen to be detached from the very building block of nationhood.
Brother Kamal, it looks like you really wanted to get at that question. If I'm not wrong, you can yield your time, and I'll if none of the other brothers want to speak to this, we good. But
yeah. I mean, I'll just say real quick. I think that we had to be, you know, Baba Ajay, and I was just sharing this with my wife earlier. Nana Ajay Koto at the Sankofa conference in 2006. He said everything is broken. Everything is broken. And I think if we are clear that we are in the midst of cultural crisis, that we're in the midst of crisis, which is born of the crisis that we're in the wake of, right? Then I think that we should be mindful of the fact that we need healing. but that healing cannot occur so long as we exist under European domination. And so we have to struggle on multiple fronts, you know, and again, you know, and Baba Baruti spoke to this earlier, the Odu, there's nothing in the Odu that advocates fleeing from struggle, right? So we have to engage in that struggle to heal ourselves. We have to engage in that struggle to heal our relationships. We have to engage in that struggle to heal our community and to heal the world. Of course, to heal the world, we have to deal with those who are committed to the subordination and the oppression and the eradication of African people. But with respect to this idea of critique, I mean, critique is healthy and critique is necessary. There's no community that is viable and sustainable absent standards, standards of what is appropriate, what is acceptable, standards of manhood, standards of womanhood. This is why we have rights in the traditional society. And we have I'll say this real quick because I know I'm out of time. We have a rights of passage group locally, Akobin Rights of Passage Society. And this is one of the very first things we talk about with the brothers, that, you know, in this society, yes, having children in the eyes of someone will make you a man, and having money in the eyes of someone will make you a man, and having sexual intercourse with innumerable women will make you a man. But this is not sufficient, right? And in our traditional societies, there were different standards, there were different conceptions of what constituted manhood and also what constituted womanhood. And I think it behooves us to recognize the wisdom of that and to organize ourselves around that. Again, anarchy is not a sufficient basis for us to transform ourselves and to be the kind of healthy Africans that we need to be in order to free ourselves and to build sustainable communities and healthy families.
I appreciate that, Brother Kamal. I want to raise this question. Another question comes from the chat, Sister Katie J. In response to the question that we asked about the standards among women and what is the man's place in correcting those standards, she says here, she believes that it should start with your brothers. I think given the high level of trauma amongst my sisters, the message might not come well from a man. We need more role models. Got to show us and not just tell us. And I want to speak to that just very quickly, and then we can move to the next topic unless anybody else wants to add to this. But my argument, and Brother Carlton Jones, you're very familiar with this argument. I believe that the majority of the issues that we see in our community are born of the crisis in African manhood. And I always start by prefacing that when I talk about manhood, I see manhood as a system, right? I say African manhood is a system that is expressed through institutions that are capable of meeting the vital needs of a group. And I think that when that particular system is in place and it's reflected in the institutions, then the standards of behavior among both women and men are corrected because they are socialized through the institutions that we have within the community. So I think that speaking alone without kind of like developing, like I'll give you an example, like the Nation of Islam, within that organization, right? They have institutions, but they also have an MGT program. I think it's Muslim Girls Training. Now, I'm not saying that what they're teaching their women is either right or wrong, but the fact that they have a system in place and an institution by which they can impart standards of behavior for both the women and the men is something that is necessary, right? So I think that that's my piece. Like I'm all for speaking on the issues that we see, because as Baba Kamal said, that the critique is necessary. But for me, at some point, and I always go back to this, it becomes an exercise of like standing at the shoreline with a mop instead of like finding higher ground and building a lighthouse, you know what I mean? So that we can bring people in. And that lighthouse for me is like, that's reflective of institution building. So that's just my particular perspective. Brother Shakarai, you look like you want to add, so go ahead, brother. I'll put the clock on.
Very quickly, I'm resistant to any thinking that leads to the delusion that any gender among us as African people is somehow more prepared and equipped, to meet the challenges that we face as a people. I don't think that black men are somehow organically more prepared to take on the challenges of our community than black women are. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced of the reverse either. I don't think that black women are somehow more advanced and have more somehow, have the skill set to better deal with this thing than black men do. And I think that if either of those premises were true, then some of the problems that we face, we wouldn't be facing, right? So we need to disabuse ourselves of those kind of fallacies. I don't disagree with the idea that we have the right in some instances and so on and so forth to critique our sisters, but I just find that that's not the issue. The issue is the balance within that. Do you know what I'm saying? For me, especially when it comes to feminism, like the feminist ideology has been very dominant in defining the image of black manhood, and we have a responsibility as black men to take back the power, of self-definition in that regard, and that will require some critique. But I find that that often creates an imbalance in the sense of the fact that, for example, I might agree that many of our sisters are not necessarily prepared for the marriage thing. But I would also say that that's the case for the man them. In fact, I don't even think that we as men, we are socialized to see marriage as an aspiration. Do you know what I'm saying? Is marriage aspirational for many of us as men? And if it's not aspirational, how can we mold ourselves and our character to take on the challenge of marriage, as Baba Baruti has kind of said, it's one of the most difficult things, if it's not even an aspiration for us? If our aspirations are elsewhere, we're preparing ourselves to meet other challenges. And so I think that we have to, as men, I agree, set standards that would make marriage an aspiration, and therefore develop the character within self whereby we're able to take on that challenge at earlier points in life than my brother said 55.
Appreciate you, brother. Brother Jeff Weaver, you look like you want to jump in on that. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So I think it was Sun Tzu that said that all war is based off of deception. What white folks have done, or as Baba Baruti refers to as Yurugu, they've successfully emasculated or castrated black manhood, right? So if we go back to the beginning of this atrocity, and we go back in order to understand what's going on right now. So, and his brother Shamari and I have this conversation. He has this metaphor about the bulls and the oxen, and how the bulls are castrated and on a farm, because a castrated bull, which is an ox, is very useful on a plantation, but doesn't have that spirit to actually charge at the master, the farmer, the matador, however you look at it. So then you have a situation, it becomes cyclical when the women are actually the ones placed in charge of the rest of the slaves, so to speak. And you have the bucks on the plantation who are there, and especially after they outlawed the importation of African people into slavery, then they began to breed us. And then so now you're perpetuating this thing, and you're placing it within the people to be loose with the seeds, as Brother Carl was speaking about. This is a part of our communities now. This is a part of our life that we're trying to erode. So then you have brothers who exist in order to pleasure themselves with girls,
10 seconds,
females, and then you have, or the other ones are trying to mimic the marriages of our white nemesis. And so we have to establish ourselves in an African-centered guideline so that and as men, and I believe also, as you mentioned, the women, the sisters also, we have to have a establishment of rules, a body of folks who have rules that we live by in an African-centered way, so that we can guide those who wish to leave the plantation, because that's the real issue. Many of our people choose to remain on the plantation. So we have to distinguish between those who are wishing to leave and to establish our own sovereign nation, and the majority who are content, when they might not even be content, they are afraid to leave, and then some are just actually content staying. So if we gauge marriage by that, then we're off centered. So we need to stay centered and focus on what that means here. So within that context, then we have something to say about the sisters, as well as the sisters have something to say about how we govern ourselves and how we move. It's the same conversation we're having right now in terms of our rules of engagement.
Appreciate that, Baba. All right, there's 2 more points for us to consider. And I know we're supposed to be wrapping up here around 10 o'clock, so I want to respect everybody's time. So this next point deals with accountability and punishment. We talked about having standards and having protocols, but as subjugated people who exist under another people's domain and control that we're currently fighting against and fighting to overturn to develop our own, how do we enact that accountability? How do we hold folks accountable to the agreed upon standards if you don't have the means of punishment? Or do we have means of punishment? Let me ask the question from that regard. So as sovereign-minded men, I'm going to start with you, Baba Baruti. How do we deal with the punishment? How do we hold folks accountable who are not upholding or adhering to the standards that we established that are supposed to be pushing us towards sovereignty?
2 quick points. First, you can't hold anyone accountable outside of the context of community or nation, if you want to get that large. Secondly, we do have the ability. We do have all the resources that we need to do this. Change. When my grandfather was walking around on this planet, my great-grandfather walked around this planet, they held people accountable. Okay, you decided you want to play with the little boys, then they took you out behind the shed with some 4x4s and they straightened that out. Either you changed or you left town. Our problem is that we don't think that we have I don't want to say the right, but we are afraid to do these things, walk around doing whatever they wanted in the community because they can't get checked. It's like, you can't tell someone's child to do, you can't tell what to do. And I know for some people, this is like fantasy talking. But if this is fantasy talking, then we're going to continue to devolve into this place where no one is accountable and no one can exercise any corrective to anyone. I'm always of secret societies. I'm always about the idea of operating below the radar to make things work the way they're supposed to work in the community, because that's what works in everyone's community except for ours. We need to be clear. We need to stop playing and pretending like everybody's moving and operating like us. No, they're not. Everybody else is controlling their own. We are the corrective for any traitor in any country historically or outwardly is death, capital punishment, period. You commit treason against my ancestors. We allow people, in fact, we applaud. So many of us applaud traitors because we're still focused on being loved by Europeans, being honored by Europeans, being validated by Europeans. And the best way to be validated by Europeans is to destroy your own. So we need to think at a different level. Our story history is supposed to be lessons by which we operate. And if we keep seeing this growth, it's not just staying at the same level. It's not stagnating. It's growing. The number of people who are betraying us. Then something needs to be put in place, or George Schiller's Black Empire. We need to look at what makes sense. You speak to people. I was brought up in a home where I was taught you speak to people in a language that they understand. And I brought up in a violent home, but I understand that. If someone cannot understand, they're creating, but they're in that space and this, then they need to stop footing around, as they used to say back. This is killing us. This is making it worse, and it's allowing people who should not be in the vicinity, should not be in the community, doing damage that they should not be doing. When that's done, okay, then we can talk about establishing. Going to pose for the community. But if you don't have any means of enforcement, if I'm a person who's a disruptor, I don't care about your oracles or your rules, your EWA. I don't care about any of that. I might sit there and say I do, but I'm going to do what I want to do because I know that there is not the possibility of you enforcing me not doing it. I don't care how much truth you know. If you can't enforce that truth, it doesn't mean anything.
Brother, Dr.
True.
Yeah, I appreciate. I have to agree with Baba Baruti. Accountability is something that's best exercised within particular structure, communal structures, be it institutions or organizations. I think that we have to be concerned about our organizational capacity, and that becomes the basis within which one we establish standards of conduct and behavior, acceptable protocols, deliberatory bodies to regulate, the group, but also means of dealing with people who engage in infractions. So I think accountability to a large extent, and I have to emphasize this because this type of accountability is particularly important given the type of disintegration that we see in our community, right? And so I think that we have to build within the organizations and institutions that we've created, we have to begin to enact accountability within that, and within that framework, devise mechanisms whereby we can expand that as we expand that work, as we expand those institutions and organizations.
Brother Shamari.
Yeah, man. I mean, you have 6 topics that we were going to hit on: conflict resolution, marriage, rearing children, rituals and celebrations, accountability and punishment, community preparedness. The through line in all of this that we have to deal with as men and as family, as African-centered people who are seeking sovereignty, is authority. We had an authority structure. It was taken, and then we offered it. It was taken from us. And then when we decided that integration was our path forward, we doubled down on that and offered our authority away and then willingly submitted to this structure. Now we have a choice to make. We got to get our authority back, and then we have to re-legitimize, re-ground our authority back in our way. The issue we have right now is we don't even have authority, some of us think, over our own children. We don't have authority as men and women who are trying to be sovereign. You can't be sovereign without authority. And so we have to get the authority over ourselves. Self-determination, I don't care what you want to call it, we have a crisis of authority. We don't respect our own authority, i.e. sovereignty, over ourselves. We have become conditioned to be ruled externally. And until we break that mindset, until we break that spirit, all of this other stuff we can't even get to because we have a fundamental crisis of Black authority. And that is what we have to deal with as a nation and as a people.
Does anybody else want to speak to that very quickly?
Yes.
I give you 30 seconds, brother. I give you 60 seconds.
I think, as we had already established, we need to establish a structure. In other words, you need to become a unit in terms of guidelines that we adhere to. Once you create that body, then whoever violates that has to be dealt with. So as Baba spoke with, I'm 100% in agreement with that. If you can't enforce it, then you don't have power. Then it doesn't matter. So it has to be enforced. So you have to be demonstrative in how you enforce it. And expulsion is one way, and also ostracism, but ultimately you have to be able to enforce the rules so that everyone else knows that we're not to be played with. And that's something that can be achieved because everyone else has.
Appreciate you, Baba. If nobody else, go ahead, Brother Shakara, you can speak to that. And then because I want everybody to speak to this last community preparedness one.
Very quickly, my father always says that we must be willing to submit to African authority. It's the only way to be able to develop systems of accountability, especially where we are at the moment. There have to be a group of us that are willing in let's say the embryonic stage to submit to African authority for the sake of building the kinds of accountability that we need, whereby we are able to enforce sanctions and them kind of things there. We do it in relation to white society all the time. on our jobs and so on and so forth. So some of us just have to be willing to develop and submit to some kind of African authority based upon our own sense of accountability.
All right. I appreciate that, Brother Shaka Rob, because that willingness to submit to our own authority, right? We're talking about government, you know what I mean? Having self-government, self-determination. That's true nation building. And I like Brother Shamari's kind of like analysis and take on that as well. Family, if nobody else has anything that they want to add to that, I
just real quick.
Go ahead, Brother Carl.
Yeah, just real quick. All right. So when I hear the authority, you know, I think about the overall authority, right? And the power of the Most High. And I know a lot of times we don't like to have a conversation that revolves around God, because for too many of us is there's some confusion, or some of us don't believe in our African-centered spirituality, our African-centered spiritual systems. And I think that one of the things that, you know, specifically when you talk about authority, the reason why the Yugaru moves so fast, because they utilize their religious system as the bottom line authority, you know. And I think that one of the things that we have neglected in time is our submission to our, you know, spiritual authority. So that's just the one thing I would just add to everything else that was said. I agree with everything else that was said. I just wanted to add that one component.
I agree with that 1,000%.
If I may, for 30 seconds, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You got 30 seconds.
So I think what you've done here is a great thing, and assembling this panel. A couple 100 years ago, our enemies assembled in this land and created a document to govern to establish and create and govern white supremacy and maintain slavery, because they understood the importance of codifying their beliefs. And perhaps we need to have a constitutional convention, maybe starting with some folks who are here and others, so that we can create something and codify it so that it's easier to actually enforce those who detract.
I appreciate you putting that on the table, because that's folks been asking that question in the chat all night. Like, what are the steps towards sovereignty? And, you know, Marcus Garvey, I just pulled out. I want to read something here for the last question, but, you know, developing government so that we can be self-ruled, developing that constitution. That's what the UNIA and ACL was created to do. It was created to be a government in waiting, right? Because we have to establish our own land, but in the process of reclaiming and redeeming the land, we have to have a group of us who are already operating and holding ourselves to the standard of nation and being ruled by nation, even before we have reclaimed the borders and redeemed the land. Like, that's the way that we have to be moving. So the whole concept of being sovereign minded, you know what I mean? Protocols of manhood for sovereign minded men, meaning we recognize the situation that we're in right now, but we understand what our objective is. So how do we start to organize and operate in a manner that gets us there, right? So with this last question, I want each of you to give an assessment, and this is on community preparedness. And I'm going to read a quote from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey on preparedness. He says here, preparedness is the watchword of this age. For us as a race to remain as we have been in the past, divided among ourselves, parochializing, insularizing, and nationalizing our activities as subjects and citizens of the many alien races and governments under which we live, is but to hold ourselves in readiness for the great catastrophe that is bound to come, that of racial extermination at the hands of the stronger race, the race that will be fit to survive. So in terms of preparedness, I want to ask the question, and I want each of you brothers to take a moment to answer. Given where we are right now and as a community, how do you assess our preparedness to meet the present day challenges and to achieve our goal of sovereignty? And based on that assessment, if you don't think that we're currently prepared, what are some action items in your mind right now that we can start to take to get there? So I'll start with Baba. Actually, I'll let Baba Baruti go last since he is the elder. So I'll start with Brother Shaka Ra. I'm going to go with you first. I'm going to go with you, Brother Shaka Ra.
I was about to say, I think I am the junior on the panel. So yeah. Repeat the question for me one more time, just so I've got it secure.
It's an assessment of preparedness. Are we prepared to meet the challenges of the latter 21st century, taking us into the 22nd century?
Hell to the no.
What do we need? What do we need to do? Are we prepared, right, to take on the mantle of sovereignty? Are we on track to get us there? And if not, what are some changes or steps we need to take right away?
Coming from the Garvey perspective, the key element is organization. That organized power is the only kind of real power. And so coming from a manhood perspective, we need organized forms of manhood, organized forms of preparing boys to be men. I was very moved at the RBG Centennial with Brother Kamal Rashid's dedication to Baba Hannibal Afrique. And he made this point, that and I'm forgetting the exact words, but to the words to the effect that responsible African men have to be about the business of creating boys who are prepared to be men, right? Words to that effect. And so I think that on keeping my answer specific to the issue of manhood, we need to organize what it means to be an African man and a sovereign-minded African man. And I believe that this platform is doing that with the Manhood, Race, Manhood and Power podcast, that people like Baba Mwalimu Baruti have been doing that. And finally, I think that another way to maximize some of our organizational potential at the moment right now is through what Brother Kamal said earlier in terms of creating family support. I believe that men who are about family and African sovereignty need to do more connecting with each other, need to do more community building with each other, interacting with each other, institutionalizing with each other in order to create the certain levels of preparedness that we need. But the word is really organization at every level, from family to community, up to nation, and so on and so forth.
Appreciate you, brother. Brother Carlton Jones, I think you're the next youngest on the panel.
Hey, man. So that's a brilliant question, though. Yeah, that's a brilliant question. And I received that too, being second youngest, man. I received that. I think that we really need to I think we really need to understand the power of think tanks, and I think we need to start utilizing them more. So we come at this as small groups, as we keep saying, unorganized. When we're going up against an organized force that has employed and sponsored multi-billion-dollar think tanks to maintain controls of operation over us, to maintain ways to divide us, to maintain ways of creating haves and have-nots amongst us. And we have not done the job in terms of building our own think tanks to sort of understand our condition, research our condition, research why we consistently fall psychologically and spiritually into these dark places that allow us to see each other so easily as the ops or whatever. And I think we need to understand the work that needs to be done from a study and put case studies together for us so that we can map out a resolution that will provide us a roadmap to being codified. When I put together the Independence Day Project, the whole purpose behind that was because at the time I created the project, I was asking elders around me what was their expectation from the struggle, and all they said was, "Well, we just continue to fight back. We continue to fight back." I said, "Whoa, no resolution, no solution." And so that led to the creation of the Independence Day Project, because I wanted to create a visual so that we would know what it would look like to create an independent and free Black society for African-centered minded people.
Appreciate you, brother. Brother Kamal, I'm just going to assume that you are the next youngest person. I'm trying to keep this in proper order here.
I appreciate that. So I would agree, with everything that's said. We are not as a people at even, I would argue, a proto-revolutionary stage of consciousness. Not the masses of us, but I believe a significant number of us are very clear. And as far as I'm concerned, and this is based on what I've been taught, there are two principal things to which we should be striving for: the reclamation of our culture and the restoration of our sovereignty. And somebody asked a question about sovereignty. Sovereignty is the capacity of African people to determine their collective destiny, to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, house ourselves, defend ourselves, heal ourselves, educate ourselves, and so on. That's sovereignty. And we do those things for ourselves. The key then, the challenge is for us to build institutions that are facilitative of that. As I said earlier, the family is a basic institutional structure which lays the basis for facilitating these types of knowledges. The key is for us to understand how those 6 levels of institution building manifest themselves in a scalable manner. That is how we can conceive of, say, how me and my family, for instance, we have a farm. We have it's probably like 1/8 of an acre or something on the southeast side of Chicago, right? So the key is, how can we conceive of how can we scale this up if we had the means, right? If there was the will among the people to do something like this. And so the key is for us to do the work, right? Do the necessary work of institution building, but to also understand that work in such a way so that that work can be scaled up as opportunities facilitate that. This is how we move ourselves towards sovereignty, and this is how we do so in a manner that's driven by an African worldview. So I'll stop there because I'm over time.
Appreciate you, brother Kamal. All right, now I'm gonna. I know I got this right, so I'm gonna go brother Shamari and then brother Jeff Weaver. I think that's the proper order.
Yeah, that's my old head by a couple.
All right. We're gonna go brother Shamari.
20 years older than 2 months older than. I bought it by the clock all night long. I might be a little off on this one, so give me a little.
Go ahead, brother. You got it.
Yeah. So the answer is, man, we screwed right now, and we all know. And if COVID didn't do nothing else, it revealed how screwed we were. I can't talk where anybody else is, but I saw grown Black people in food lines and robbing each other over stimulus checks. I saw that with my own eyes. I saw people who wouldn't eat if somebody wasn't handing them food to eat. So if COVID, that wiped all the delusions from my eyes. I wanted to believe differently. I saw different. And then I literally just looked at it. Well, I couldn't look at it, but there's reports that on TV right now last week, we saw one of the most proud, defiant, sovereign-minded groups of people called Haitians rounded up, whipped, horseback, and we ain't do shit about it. We don't know what to do about it. We have no scratch line as a people. And, that brings tears to my eyes, to be honest with you, because you're talking about being reduced and diminished. That's diminished.
Yes,
sir. So let's be clear where we are. Chinwezu, the Nigerian author, he talks about the fact that this 21st century is the live or die century for African people across this globe. If we don't come from under the oppression of Yoruba, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it, in this 21st century, we might literally be talked about as a people who were. Because everywhere around us, they are not playing regarding our livelihood. We're the only ones who think this is a joke. So given that, we in cold red status, and we got to stop acting like we're not. The delusion that we're okay is killing us. Given that, Maslow's hierarchy, very simple. We know the answer to this. The answer is already, Garvey told us, everybody has told us. Number one, you got to be able to feed, clothe, and shelter yourself. Even Booker T. Washington, we know that. You got to do it. Because whoever feeds you controls you. And right now, we can't feed ourselves. Then, next level, I'm a student of Bob Adele Jones, man. We got to bring our people from under the subjugation of the American nigger factory. We got to get from the media. We got to get away from the entertainment. We got to get away from the schooling system. We got to get away from their religious white Jesus, white ally institutions, and the social service. We can't become, whoever controls your socialization controls the soul of a nation. And right now, we don't control our socialization. So we got to control our ecology and economics, meaning food, clothing, and shelter. We have to control our socialization. And then the third layer of that, we have to protect everything by any means necessary. That's the beginning and the end of it all. Everything else layers after that. But if you can't do those three fundamental things, you can't even call yourself a people. And right now, we can't do any of those three, let alone all three.
I think that might have been the first applause. Not that I'm throwing shade to anybody. I just forgot that the applause button was here. And then brother Shamari just spoke to my spirit, and it was like, you got to hit the applause button for that. So I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother Jeff Weaver, it's on you, Baba.
Yes, sir. So let me say, we have to first start with our victory. We have to know that we are winners. We are taught, this is part of the deception in warfare, that we're losers. We won the first and only time the African-centered culture fought against unified European nations. We won and established Haiti. That was the first World War. They call it a slave revolt, but there were 21 African nations present that fought against 4 European nations or white nations. That's a world war. And we won, which means that we're cut from winners, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we need to embrace whatever your traditional African culture is. They exist. Don't allow white people to cap you up into thinking that they don't work anymore. That's not true. They were abandoned, and in a lot of instances, we were snatched away from them. But we need to embrace our traditions, our spiritual traditions, our drum-centered spiritual traditions that are African. The third thing is that Black women, we need to train our daughters to grow up to be unyielding and uncompromising, right? Because white women control and maintain white supremacy. Make no bones about it. When we have sisters who are unyielding and uncompromising, they will not allow a son that was birthed from their loins to be weak. You understand? So we have to take our sisters back from the slave masters. And so, brothers, because there may be a limited amount of those of us who see the vision, then it's our job to make sure that our sisters understand at a young age that when you grow up, you don't have babies with slaves. That's the first thing. And that your children, you make sure that your sons grow up warriors, and strong and uncompromising. And then after a few, just like what Malcolm talked about in Vietnam, no more Uncle Toms, you know what I mean? Because at a certain point, if the sisters are solid, they give birth to male and female. So I think the objective is no matter what happens, because many things happens to men at war and sisters, but primarily the brothers are the ones dropping because we're targeted. But if the sisters are solid, it don't matter because she's going to keep producing solid warriors and soldiers.
There we go. All right, Baba Baruti, I'm going to ask you to close us out with your assessment. And in doing so, could you speak to this question? There's a sister, Katie J, asked, where's the hope, though? We remain hopeful, right? She's asking, are we defeated, or is victory still?
The hope in the work that everybody's laying out. Like when you say, socialize yourself, then that's a call to the hope, the work, the kazi, and the willingness to embrace the kazi. That's what we gotta embrace the kazi of the work of regaining our celebration. That's some beautiful, optimistically joyful shit. Revolution is some beautiful, joyful, hopeful stuff. For us to believe in what we say, that's the hope. Our people got to start believing that again. That's spiritual right there.
All right. All right, and Baba Rudy doesn't get a shot clock, so that's on you, Baba.
I just want to speak. Yeah, I just want to speak very briefly. There was a comment. I don't know how many ago in the chat where the question was asked, "How do we do this?" We do this by doing it. So you don't need to have some leader come along and say, "Okay, well, let's go start a community. Let's go." No, that needs to be done everywhere, wherever you're at. Okay, if there are two of you, if there are three of you, if there are one family, two family, whatever, you do it where you're at to the capacity that you can. Period. That's how you nation build. No one has to come along and they weren't saying, "Oh, I need to be, dependent on." Most of us who are, I would say, a lot of us who are on the front line don't realize the extent of our power. We're still of that mind where we get our power from someone else or something outside of us. No, we need to build sovereignty. We're John running a nation by running a home. Well, we need to establish. We need land and get some land. We need whatever we need. Go get it. I mean, it's like we don't have time to wait. We don't have time to even really sit around and discuss it. Even extremely important to do this, and I applaud all of these warriors here. But we need to those. If you can do it, do it. Grab you an eighth of an acre of land and start planting some crops. Okay, practice the art of being independent. Sacrifice something from the things that you're doing to go and build what you need to build. We're the ones that we're looking for, and protect space. Okay, okay, if I'm gonna die, let me die being African. Let me die being the kind of warrior I'm supposed to be. Let me die setting the example. There was a brother, I believe he was in North Carolina, I can't remember if it was North Carolina or South Carolina, Robert Charles, and he was lynched. There was a crowd of over 10,000 people there to watch his lynching. And Robert Charles took out somewhere like 8, 9, 10 of the Europeans before they lynched him. He knew he was gone, but he still was a man. And I'm sitting there saying, I wish I was a little black boy sitting up on a hill watching this man. That would have been all I needed to know about what I do. We need to start doing what needs to be done. So down the road, we're still sitting there saying, what do we need to do? Or now, no, it's always do whatever you see that needs to be done and start doing it now. On the point of the hope thing, I was corrected years ago when I was telling the elder how we're doing. I said, we're trying, we're making it, but he said, no, we're winning. You don't know one motivational speaker who doesn't tell people that you affirm into existence what you want to come like it exists now. So whenever we talk to people, whenever Indiana and I talk to people, whatever the discussion is, we are winning. That's an absolute. We are winning. I can't accept a scenario or like get me a 40 and what's the purpose of this wasting my time? We're winning as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I appreciate you, Baba. Listen, I want to just give a big round of applause once again to all of our panelists. Family, it's impossible to the nature of these discussions. It's always good for us to have these discussions, just continue to push the conversation forward. But even more than talk, right? Remind people of the actions that you should be taking right now, today. That should be reflective in your day to day and your own actions, even if it's just in your household and you looking to connect with like-minded folks to solve your immediate problems, right? So these topics are so big, but we break them down into small pieces when we have these conversations, and we do it one bite at a time. So I really just want to thank each of my panelists for joining us. As you all know, typically after the Race, Manhood, and Power show airs, I open it up for live office hours. So I'm going to stick around for a little bit. If anybody that is in the chat wants to come up and join, I'll drop the link. My panelists, if you want to stick around, you're free to stick around. At this point, you can say whatever it is that you want to say. If there's something you want to get off your chest that you weren't able to say because of the shot clock, now is the time you can do that. If you want to step away, you can, I'll give a minute for each of y'all to just go ahead and tell the folks where they can find y'all, how they can support y'all, and any closing messages you want to leave with the chat. you can do that now. And like I said, you can stick around, or you can, it's up to you, but I'm going to stick around for a little bit so the chat can join tonight. Sister Katie said, thank you for your time tonight, men. So the community really enjoys seeing the brothers come together. And especially when it's not a group of men that are coming together to either A, take a poop on black women, or B, take a poop on our community. Like we've come together to discuss, as sovereign-minded men, how do we push our objectives forward collectively, and how do we establish the necessary protocols to make sure that we are successful. And Brother Jeff Weaver put it on the table. Like, we need to have that constitutional convention. We need to do a reconvening of that, so that we can again start to codify and act and operate in a manner as if we are already sovereign, right? Reclaiming our authority, reclaiming our manhood, reclaiming our nationhood, and reclaiming our peoplehood. So I'll let you go first, Bob Baruti, if you want to tell the folks where they can find you, and any closing remarks you want to leave with them, you can do so now.
I just want to say, first and foremost, Madasi P, to you, thank you so much for doing this. That's a courageous act to be able to come on, especially in their realities. We don't run the to come on in this reality and to host and continue to deliver the word in the way that you do. There needs to be applause for you as well. I mean, the whole group, I either know or have heard of the reputation of everyone here, and I don't think there's anyone here who shouldn't be here. Everyone here should be here. So I'm honored the presence of warriors. They're at. Now, what did Hannibal Afrique say? Warriors are warriors everywhere, and all of these brothers are warriors everywhere. Of course, folks can find my books, DVDs at www.akabenhouse.com. If you can't locate the site, just find me on Facebook, Bob and Walamu Baruti, or Walamu Baruti. I'll give you the information, or Inia Baruti. She's also on Facebook. But I'm really honored to be here. I mean, you don't have the warriors doing the work, then you know you have nothing to look back on, if you will. And I would like to stay around. I want to hear everyone's comments, but in less than 10 hours, I have some little warriors in training that I need to be in class with. But I appreciate being asked to come on, especially in the company.
We appreciate you, Baba. Brother Jeff Weaver. You muted, Baba.
Okay, Facebook is probably the best way, or email. But most of you contact me by Facebook. Yeah, thank you, Brother Carl. My wife just handed me this too. I always forget to self-promote, but that's my book.
Put it back up on the screen so they can see it.
Okay. 5 Fifths No Compromise: The Inalienable Human Rights and Souls of Black Folk.
All right.
But Facebook, Jeff Weaver. Email weaverrive7@icloud.com. And I just want to say I enjoyed this, and I would like to stay in contact with. I think there's only 2 brothers who I'm not in contact with, but I would like to continue this conversation, but toward what I spoke about. We need to codify the thoughts and the ideas and the inspiration that we have to make this nation, you know, the same way these white folks have done it, and the same way our ancestors have done it. We're quite capable. And I think we should move forward. Don't look at this as just a panel discussion. Look at this as a spark toward ultimately creating the nation. Like, this can be the creation of the nation right here, you know? So we just have to move forward with it. And, you know, and respect to everyone here. And I would like to do this again soon, if possible.
All right, appreciate you, Brother Jeff Weaver. All right, brother Shamari.
Yeah, brother Shamari. First of all, shout out to brother Umuopara, brother Carl Tone Jones. It's good to see our brothers in the same space, standing strong. I feel honored. Sometimes out of a moment, bigger things evolve, and I'm glad to see that in that moment, this type of platform and this kind of energy was able to evolve by you all, abiding by some protocols regarding manhood. So you can get at me. I have a radio show here in Philly, but it's also, on YouTube and Facebook Live. Radio station here is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Show is Groundings, Evolutions, Elevations with Brother Shamari. We come on every Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. and then again on Sundays from 6 to 8 p.m. So check us out, WURD Radio on Facebook or Onward on YouTube, ONWURD. October is my birthday month, and I plan on honoring my 56 years by about 12, 14 years ago. I published a book called Why Our Children Hate Us, How Black Adults Betray Black Children. The follow-up to that should be coming out as a multimedia experience in October called For the Love and Life. And life is LIFE, liberation, independence, freedom, and empowerment. For the love and life of Black children by any means necessary. So, look for that, support it. There'll be a lot of other movements that come out as a result of the book, kind of trying to create a community crusade to support the idea that we need to be living for the love and life of our Black children. It's time for us to deliver their future for them, and it should be a sovereign future and the future that they deserve. And that is our responsibility, our duty, and our obligation. We got to stop running from it.
All right. Dr. Kamal.
So I want to say first, Asante Sana for inviting me to take part on this panel. Definitely appreciate the work you're doing, Brother Umuopara, and definitely appreciate the work that these other brothers is doing as well. I want to share my information, but I want to couch it in a Wolof proverb that I shared on social media recently. The translation is: a man is measured by what he does, not what he says. And I appreciate that ancestral wisdom, because it's clear to me that the ancestors were about the business of doing. That is, that we were true through our actions. We manifest our truth through our actions. So anybody wanting to holler at me, I'm on Twitter at Kamal Rashid. You can also go to my site, kamalrashid.com. I'm on Facebook. We have a number of things going on here in Chicago. So I'm the chair of the education committee of the Kemetic Institute. So we've got the Africa Forum happening the second Friday of every month for the fall. So the events, usually I post them on Eventbrite. I also put them on Twitter, but if you go on Eventbrite, search Kemetic Institute, you'll see some of the different things we have coming up. If you have youth, if you have any children, any young men, any young boys, rather, between the ages of 12 and 17 in Chicago, we have the Chicago area, we have a Rites of Passage program called Akko-Ben Rites of Passage Society, where we're concerned about, as Baba Hannibal said, raising a standard of manhood. And so these brothers are given a rigorous education in a whole range of things, most notably those 6 levels of institution building that I referred to. Also, I teach capoeira. So if you're interested in learning capoeira, if you're in Chicago, you can check out my site, Chicago Malandros. Chicago Malandros is MALANDROS.com. So I actually teach a few folks that aren't in Chicago. So if you aren't in Chicago, holler at me as well. And we can if somebody in our group is where you are, I can refer you to them. But if you're interested in learning the warrior arts of our ancestors, because it's not just about defending ourselves, but embracing an African consciousness, you can check us out. And then finally, locally, we have a farm, Your Bountiful Harvest Family Farm. It's on the southeast side of Chicago. And if you want to come out and get your hands dirty on our volunteer days, you're welcome to connect with us. So again, you can hit me up on social media at Kamal Rashid on Facebook. At Kamal Rashid on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. And again, kamalrashid.com. Sante San again, Bibi for Hodie.
All right, I'm bring up my brother, Carl Tone Jones. Where is Carl Tone Jones? Oh, he right here. I'm looking at the layout. I'm like, where's he at? Like, looking at the layout, like, where's my whole family? If y'all still here, it looks like we still got about 40 people watching. So please do go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to support the channel, you can always use the Cash App $Strike Drum. Of course, you can become a Patreon member of the channel as well. So if you are here, we appreciate you being here. Carlton Jones, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, brother. And once again, man, definitely appreciate our bond. I don't think people really understand. We've had several in-depth conversations regarding not just the mishap, but just sharing visions and sharing outlooks. And like I said before, when you shared your vision for me, it was one of the most impressive things I've ever heard. So much solitude and solutions. I mean, solitude and salutations to you, brother, for the work that you put forth, man. I appreciate you as my brother, and the love is real. So anybody, and I suck at this next part, but anybody wants to catch up with me, you can find me. Just Google Carlton Jones. And I don't say that arrogantly. I just say it because I did it before, and I'm the only one. I'm the only Carlton Jones on all of cyberspace. So if you Google that, you'll find me on YouTube. You'll be able to find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm trying to reassert myself on Twitter. It's been a struggle. But you'll find me on those platforms as well as TikTok. I'm getting familiar with TikTok as well. And if you're inclined, and you want to support some of the work that I do, you can purchase my book, 2020 Through the Eyes of a Social Media Revolutionary. Or you can also go to my website, blackindependence.org, and grab yourself either a physical copy, DVD, or a digital copy of my film, The Independence Day Project. Also, got some new things out there, especially for the sisters. I've been having these shirts. Sisters have been going crazy over this. Is My Black is Beautiful. Shameless plug. So, sisters, if you want to let the world know what we already know, that your black is beautiful, holler at your brother. I love y'all more than anybody else. That's why I'm hard on you.
Appreciate you, brother. Last but not least, my good brother from across the pond. Where you at, brother? All right, here you go. You gotta unmute.
Sorry. First of all, I found that Baba Hannibal a freak quote, so let me just drop it because he says it more eloquently than I put it forward. He says, serious black men must take responsibility for training our boys to become men and create a criteria for certifying the eligibility of boys to be qualified as men. So I was wanting to drop that on the hope point. The words of the prophet Marcus Mosiah Garvey says, chance has never yet satisfied the hope of a suffering people. Action, self-reliance, the vision of self, and the future have been the only means by which the oppressed have seen the light of their own freedom. And I think that those words are instructive. As far as me, myself, can find me on all social media as Shakara Speaks. Many things I'm involved in. It's like, 25 to 4 in the morning over here. Tomorrow or later on today, I'm going to be teaching in the homeschool university that was initiated by Queen Thais, who's over there in Atlanta. But I teach a group of like 20-odd students now, African-centered media studies, decoding music, film, language, and symbolism. That's one of the things I'm involved in at the moment. But I really wanted to profile the institution more than my own class, the homeschool university that was initiated by the Liberated Minds Institute. Yeah, so Google Liberated Minds Institute, and you'll find all of the information regarding that. Want to big up my brother, M.A. Bunya, in the chat, and also Sister One Like and Darky. Greetings, and it's good to see you both here. And I'm holding in my hand right now the African World newspaper, and I'm highlighting it. In fact, let me get the other one, because it's produced every year by Mama Marimba Ani in line with a ceremony, a ritual of African sovereignty that she has initiated called Abakasem Sumsum. Yeah, and I'm just highlighting it to give an example of of one of the ways in which we reinforce the African sovereign mindset in manhood is through ritual and ceremony. That's one example of it. Another one is through discussions like this, and I've held my own as well. In June, I held the very first Affirming Black Manhood event, which I will be doing again next year, and in January also an annual event honoring Nana Amos Wilson, and with that, honor once again to Brother Omowale for putting this forward, bringing us all together, and doing this work, man. It's a phenomenal work, from the health and the fitness to the discussions and the other organizing that you do, my brother. You're very highly valued, and so I just want you to know that, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother. The sister asked, where can they get a copy of the paper?
That is a very good question. The only way I know to get a copy is from Mama Marimba, or those who Mama Marimba distributes the paper to. So I don't know if Baba Mwalimu Baruti would be able to assist in this regard. But yeah, because I get my copies and I just distribute them among brothers and sisters, because that's what she asked me to do. so yeah, Baba Baruti may be able to help.
All right, Brother Carl Tone Jones is showing something on the screen.
Yeah, because we got two. Listen, I've read three. We have three authors here. Well, not include myself. 3 authors here who put some comprehensive work in, and I've read all of their work. So I just wanted to make sure that we know that Baba Baruti has a brilliant book called Message to the Warriors. We were talking about warriors all night, So these 2 books are probably 2 of the best books in regards to speaking to African warriorhood, African-centered warriorhood. And I just wanted to make sure that, shout out our good Baba, who has put in a lot of work. And I had one of the most enjoyous pleasures was spending an entire week, a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend with, Baba Baruti and Mama Ya in Mississippi. So, I just wanted to make sure that I love both of these books, and I think that these should be in every library. Everybody that's watching this broadcast should have copies of both of these books. And in addition to that, I also forgot, brother, on Wednesdays we do have a podcast on my channel called Somebody Has to Say It with myself, my brother Jeff Weaver, brother Nkrumah, brother Shamari said for us to kick rocks. But but we're on Wednesday evenings 9:15 Eastern Standard Time.
All right, appreciate you, brother. All right, listen, we are officially here in office hours at this point. The show has ended. My brothers who are on the panel, y'all welcome to hang around. It's up to y'all. Y'all, if y'all want to add, this is where you can throw anything you want on the table at this point. This is office hours. So
well, I would like to say I'm going to have to leave.
Yes, sir.
But I would like to say I have both books too.
I like that. I like that.
So I had my son read Baba Baruti's book last year when we were all home during the pandemic. And that's what had moved me to send him a friend's request, because I actually put my son, we put him through a rites of passage here. So that was 2 years ago, and the pandemic was the following year when he read your book. So and he really enjoyed it. He just turned 16 this year, but he was 15. He was 14 going on 15 at the time. So, but I concur with what Brother Carl said. We have to. It's a great read for establishing the code of warriorhood, and I think we need to really focus on codifying what that means from an African-centered perspective. All right, but with that, I gotta go, brothers. My wife's in the other room. I promise I wouldn't stay too long.
All right. But it's been great
and I'm looking forward to the next one.
I appreciate you, brother.
I'm gonna take my leave as well. I got to rise early.
Go get some rest, man. Go get some rest. I appreciate you being here.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. Greetings once again to Baba Baruti. It's an honor to share a platform with you again. We appreciate it. And yeah, love to the family, you know. Peace out.
Peace, brother.
Unfortunately, bro, I have to follow my brothers out the door. We've been burning the candle at both ends, and it's been a little laborious. So peace and power to everybody, man. I appreciate you all. And Baba, it's always a pleasure building with you, Baba. I look forward to the next time. Family.
Appreciate you, brother. Habibi Fahudia. All right. Baba Rudy, you was trying to say something?
And Brother Umuopara, of course, I said before I need to leave, but I wanted to tell the sister I have a newspaper. If she could just reach out to me on Facebook, and if she could do it, I want to say soon because I only have a few copies and wanted to make
How
sure.
you doing, yo?
So I'm gonna say a BB Fahudia and look forward to the next time.
Habibi Fahudia, Baba. Sister Awa, that was for you. Send Baba Baruti a message on Facebook, and he can get you a copy of that paper. So, Sister Awa, I'm not sure if you're still here in the chat, but if not, I'll reach out to you. All right. What's going on, Brother Razi? What's going on, Brother Razi? Brother Razi, if you're speaking, you might have to unmute your mic. All right, I tell y'all what, I'm gonna play a quick commercial break right here while we're waiting for Brother Razi to get his situation together. If y'all haven't checked out my my documentary yet, here's the trailer to my documentary, The Un-American Dilemma. Y'all can always go check.
A political chump. The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you, because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
I think it extends far beyond black people who hold political office. Like, I would be speaking to, your entertainers, your celebrities. It's really anybody, any black person who has a vested interest in maintaining the political status quo because their economic livelihood is tied to this current situation. So therefore, they collectively, work every 4 years to get out the black vote.
As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things.
The way it's interpreted by the Democrat crooked machine of Philadelphia.
I'm arguing for new ways and means of organizing locally, where we organize our power collectively, economically, culturally, to build up ourselves and our communities. And I think that we can do that without engaging with the system as it currently stands. Make sure y'all go support that Un-American Dilemma documentary. I just put the link to that in the chat. Shout out to you, sister. She said, "Not the voting dead." You got to check out the doc if you ain't seen it yet. We put some good work into that. But family, this office hours. Anybody is welcome to pull up. I'll stick around here for another 15 and 20 minutes or so for live office hours of Professor Umuopara. It looks like we got somebody in the back chat. Michelle N. Hello, Michelle. How are you? Michelle N. I got you on the screen. So if you're muted, you may have to unmute your mic. All right. It looks like Michelle N is maybe having some audio issues because I can't hear her if she is speaking. But let me put a message in the back chat. I see Brother Shamari still here. You says you can't hear me. Hold on one second. Do you have I'm talking to Michelle, y'all, in the back chat, in the private chat. All right, she just popped out. I guess she'll pop back in when she can. All right, who else we still got in here? Anybody is welcome to pull up at this point, y'all. This was a really good build. You know, initially I was going to do my topic for tonight was going to be on 360-degree manhood versus healthy masculinity. And my argument is very simple. Like, there is no such thing as healthy masculinity, especially under a system of dominance, right? You'll never be able to express, what they refer to as healthy masculinity while you're being dominated by another group, because the things that are required to even have a fully developed manhood or to express somebody said, I'm NG, the book of Sappho is pure gold. Yo, what up, Brother L, Brother Patrick Strayhorn, apologies. Y'all welcome to join the chat. Y'all welcome to pull up on the live. I'll be here for another, if nobody pops up, then I'm a pop out. But you know what I mean? I will stick around because this is my opportunity to build with y'all. Let me know what y'all thought of the panel tonight, what y'all thought of the discussion, the panelists. All right. Brother Shamari, I see you still here, Brother Shamari. You here? You just listening, or you wanna chop it up?
Listen, I've never been on a office hours or whatever. So whatever the deal is, I'm still in the flow in the universe.
Yeah. It's just a situation where typically the Race Manhood and Power podcast is pre-recorded. So we, right after the pre-record goes off, we open up space to have a live office hours where people can come up and ask questions about anything that they saw during the episode or questions that they might have. It's just an opportunity for us to engage. But I mean, having you here is super dope, bro, because I told you before that it was you who and even inspired the name of the channel. I'm gonna see if I can find that joint, because I promise you, I was searching online. I was looking for names, and I came across a video of you talking. And I listened to that video. Here it is, right here. I'm gonna show you the video. Hold on one second. I'm gonna bring it up. I came across this video right here. Hold on.
It might be I was trying to hide from.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Trust me. You're gonna like this. Hold on. Let me make sure. All right. Hold on. This is the video.
From the old Shamari show episode. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's the Amos Wilson quote. A man is supposed to be threatening, especially to his enemies.
To know that when you look at the black politicians, you hear this word non-threatening politician. That's one of those new terms, right? Non-threatening. In other words, we will elect Negro politicians who don't threaten white folk and frighten white folk. So Dinkins and Wilder and Rice and they got a guy here elected in a conservative up in Connecticut somewhere, Republicans, right? Andrew Young, they're talking about the non-threatening black politician. Non-threatening. And you know what that means. And when I quote it to you a while all ago as a result of non-threatening black politicians and judges, black men and black people being destroyed. A man must be threatening, particularly to the enemies. If you don't frighten the enemies of the race, then the enemies are going to come in and take advantage.
I've said on this show several times that the fundamental problem we have with our people right now, particularly black manhood, is that the only people scared of black men are black people. Dr. Amos Wilson is saying if you don't stand up and be a threat, particularly to your enemy, if you are not perceived as a threat, right? Bad word for us. We get scared about what that means. But if your enemy adversary does not perceive you as a threat, he is going to run all up in your stuff. All the businesses in our neighborhoods controlled by others. Our children's schooled by others. Gentrification unparalleled that we can't defend against. The list could go on. Brothers incarcerated wantonly. So the question becomes, how are we and how must we begin in the context of conversations about race, manhood, and power to prepare young boys? He's saying the stuff we would look at.
Brother Shamar, when I heard you say that race, manhood, and power, I was like, yo, that's it.
You sound like you know what he's talking about.
I was like, that's the name of the show right there. Race, manhood, and power. When I heard you say that. So I want to give you, you were the inspiration behind that, because I was just trying to come up. I had about 40 different names that I had to choose from, and I was just looking for inspiration. And I listened to that clip. I just searched online. I put in black manhood, and your video was one of the first ones that came up. And I'm listening to it, and as soon as you said race, manhood, and power, I was like, ooh, that's it. That's the name right there.
That's good, because sometimes, man, when you do this stuff, you wonder if there's any. Sometimes you think you're talking to yourself, and you're like, is anybody on the other end of this? Or so it's good to know that, sometimes the things land somewhere, man. And as always, I think that Baba, Dr. Ancestor Amos Wilson, was one of the most cogent thinkers and doers that we produced, that I had a chance to be around. So, any way of just carrying that kind of conversation and legacy forward, man, I think that the blueprint is there. Between his works and Baba Del Jones and Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, Malcolm. I mean, we can't claim ignorance. So it has to be something about our heart or our courage that is lacking, because it's not that we can't say we don't know what to do. That's been laid out so many times.
Absolutely.
You start doing it.
Absolutely. I have I'm doing an entire series in October. Let me, Sister Katie J, welcome. I appreciate you coming up to join us for After Hours. The floor is always yours. But Brother Shamar, I have a whole series that I'm doing in October called The Souls of Black Folk. By not souls as in W.E.B. Du Bois, but like Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, and, it's funny, man. My undergrad is in economics, and sometimes when you grab the first name of a black person in economics, and so my fellow brothers at Morehouse used to call me Soul Man, and they would say for Thomas Sowell. I started reading this stuff. I was like, no, I don't want to be this dude.
Yeah, absolutely not. But when you talk, I have a couple of joints that I'm doing, but one is called within that series, I have one that's called the political unicism of divested politics, and that's going to be a good one. But just dealing with kind of like the political, eunuchs, the castrated politics that exist within our community that's meant to cut off our manhood. So it's going to be an interesting dialogue. Sister Katie J, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Good. You sound so elegant. You said good evening. Sounds so elegant. How are you, Sister Katie?
I'm all right. I have a real quick question, and I thought about it. I don't know if I should even ask, but I want you to consider this just for a minute. What is the target age group for your series that you're producing, or for any of your series, your content? What's the target age?
So for on YouTube, the audience that is on YouTube is predominantly 25 and up. So when I look at like my analytics on the back end, the large majority of my audience, I would say about 70% of my audience is between the ages of 25 to 44, right? And 90% of my audience is currently male, and 10% of my audience is female. So those are my analytics right now. So
okay,
when you ask who's the target, I would say that 25 to 35 is definitely the sweet spot in terms of the audience that I'm trying to build and target. But being 38 myself, I recognize the value in that older group as well. You know what I mean? So
can I ask a few follow-up questions? I would
just the age,
say,
I said 90%. Like, yeah, my audience is currently 90% male. I don't know if the sisters like my content. I don't really know. I don't do too much pandering. I think that I'm fair and balanced, but I'm happy. I guess that would means that my marketing and promotion, right, and the production is working, because we are targeting men for our content. So the fact that men are 90% of our audience currently, I think that something might be working.
my follow-up question is, where is the content for conscious-minded youth? And I ask that, I wonder that, because I think like the conversation that was just had was great, but I think you have to have a certain vocabulary, spend a certain amount of time diving into books, that just by, a young person, they might not have had the same amount of time nor knowledge that you and I might have. And I just wonder, if we know that our community needs change, how can we use the apps and whatnot? Because primarily the young people are on TikTok.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
To target and spread that conscious message for our young people. What's your
Yeah,
thought?
I agree with you 1,000%. Me and my wife was actually having this conversation earlier when we were talking about like the content strategy. And, I was saying that I told her who my current audience is, and that I really want to figure out how to target that 25 and under audience and grow there. And her reply to me was that if you're on YouTube and you're trying to target a 25 and under audience, then you're targeting an audience that's not on that app, because young people by and large are on TikTok and on Instagram. And I don't know if Tata, I don't know if you're still in the audience right now, but me and my sister Tata were having a conversation the other day, and it's centered around developing media institutions, right? Because me as an individual, I can only be but so effective based on my own individual effort without being spread too thin, right? I still, I'm still on the plantation like the large majority of other people here. I'm so economically dependent on this system. So I haven't necessarily liberated myself financially to the point that I can do this all the time. And so I don't have I don't want to say I don't have an answer, but that is a challenge that we're looking to develop solutions to, right? And it's so funny. My brother Tristan is on a call right now. He sits on the administration with me for the Philadelphia chapter of Afrocentricity International. And he'll tell you that our last administrative meeting, about 70% of the discussion was about how do we better engage like that 21 and under. And Tata is in the chat. She said, we'll get there, right? We were just having this whole discussion, right, Tata? It's like, how do we create these media institutions, right? Because Garvey, being a Garveyite, that's something that he recognized very early on. And when you look back at the Garvey movement, the average age then was like 27 to 35 of the people who were very active in the movement. But he realized very early on that in order to be effective, he needed a media apparatus, which is why he created the Negro World. Now we have a situation today where we have a plethora of different media applications, but none of them are owned by us, and we don't have any real. Well, I guess you have WURD, but Brother Shamar, you can speak to that as a as a vehicle for any liberatory work. But I'm just saying, for us to do the true work that we're trying to do and to target the audiences that you're speaking about, Sister Katie, we're going to have to build those media institutions ourselves. We're going to have to fund them. We're going to have to develop them. We're going to have to bring on the talent that can help us to create it. Because the limitations that we have using other people's applications are going to remain until we break them. So I apologize if that's not a good answer to your question, but the sentiment of your question,
that's a good answer.
I agree with.
Yeah. I only asked because A, you're doing a great job, but B, I recognize there's a whole demographic of people who we really need in these conversations and discussions and really thinking about it. And I love the younger generation. They're smart. I'd argue a bit sensitive, but really, really smart.
Yeah.
And they need to be, again, cultivated, their minds with this material. So I was just wondering, like,
well,
what can we do?
The next off topic that we're doing is going to be a special segment, and we're doing age, I think, either 14 to 25. And you're not going to see their faces, and we're going to pre-record it just in case they say anything that needs to be like edited out. But the topic we're going to focus on is colorism and race loyalty. So I don't know if you're a fan of Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and there's that part during the album where they're talking to like the young people or whatever. Like that's kind of like what we're looking to facilitate with the next discussion of going off topic. And it's going to be ages, I think we're doing 14 to 25. I'm bringing on some young people. They're going to have their face hidden the entire time. But we're going to have a really good conversation that is targeted at their age demographic. So you should definitely look forward to that. That's going to come in October. If you're speaking, Sister Katie, you're muted. Oh, we lost her. Brother Tristan, Brother Shamari, y'all can unmute. What's going on, Brother Tristan?
Hold up, Brother Omar. Wait, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can. If you got YouTube on in the back, mute YouTube.
Okay, let me see. Okay, mute. Let me do this. All right. How am I now?
You're good.
Hello? Okay,
yep, you're good.
Okay, when I hear the silence. Well, first off,
Tristan, you have the YouTube video. Turn the YouTube video off and just stay in the StreamYard with me. Sister Katie, you can come back in.
All right.
Yeah, can I just throw something up? Because I'm at a radio station that grapples with this question all the time, and I don't know outside of sports, to be honest with you, any platform that kind of gets a universal demographic. Like I think that we hold ourselves and try to set up something that might not be attainable. I think your idea of creating separate segmented programming and maybe even separate channels that target different demographics might be the way to go, but it's going to be very difficult to create programming that's universal across a demographic. So it's really about segmenting things and then targeting those segments. Yeah, so I just want to put that out there because I think that sometimes we do with that. Like there are some conversations that need to be had at different levels. I know coming up, we had our own children's table. We didn't sit at the table and join in the conversations with adults. And that was just kind of part of it, this age set differentiation in our communities. And I think that we have to create programming that gets at all of those demographics, but I don't know, except on rare occasions, that it can be the actual same programming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny, my producer just joined us because we were having it. You see his comment right here. He said we literally talked about audience curation this morning. And this is your field of expertise, Brother Shamari, so you know better than than many of us know. But yeah, like this show, like, and this is why when we started to develop kind of like race, manhood, and power, we were clear that race, manhood, and power wouldn't be all things to all people. Right. So that's why we said we have to create different buckets of content on the channel. So right now we have 5 buckets that we drop stuff into. We have going off topic, which is like a panel discussion, but it can also be one-on-one interviews. We have office hours of Professor Omowale. We have Omowale After Dark. We have race, manhood, and power. And then on Patreon, we have soapbox sessions, which is sound only Patreon exclusives. Then that's where I can just give you a spirited rant about a topic. But until we develop kind of like that network and institutional infrastructure where, if you think of like Viacom like owns different channels. So it might own Nickelodeon, it might own BET, it might own, you know what I mean? And each of those particular channels caters to a different type of audience. And I feel like this is what we have to do. We have to create networks that produce channels, and then the channels of our content can plug into whatever demographic we need it to plug into.
It won't be one single program that does that. It has to be a media, like you said, channels that are differentiated, and you build out audiences for each platform or channel. And I think that's the big vision, right? That's a big vision. That's because now you're looking at yourself as a media network, right? Mm-hmm. Versus a program that has to cater to everybody. How does your network cater to the totality of our population? And that's the thinking that has to happen.
Bro, listen, Frank, you on the call because
I am on the call. I had to jump in on this part
because I was gonna say, what was our whole discussion?
I never come online, but I had to jump in on this part.
We just had this whole discussion earlier today. And Brother Shamari just hit it. He just said, how do we cater to the different mentalities of our people? So go ahead, speak to it. Because we just had this conversation earlier.
So I've been in multimedia for like nearly 20 years now, from music production to even I produced a children's series, book series, cartoon series. I'm a videographer. I'm a photographer. All I do is visuals and content creation. This is literally how I buy houses and feed my children. So a lot of people in our lane don't often kind of see how the sausage is made, right? They just kind of see like the final product, but too often what gets ignored is any number, like thousands of decisions that go into what hits people's eyeballs or what hits people's eardrums. It is literally representative of hundreds of people's making decisions and like millions of dollars being spent in advertising budgets, and they hire psychologists, and they have color theory, and they have sound theory, and they have all these different things, all focused on suspension of disbelief. That's literally what stirs multimedia drink these days, is the suspension of disbelief. How far away can we make this content from anything close to reality? And the further away it is, the more appealing it is, because we've been programmed to follow that train of thought when it comes to media consumption. And so if we hope to compete, because everybody, like 50 and under is walking around with the phone stuck in their face like all day. And if we're competing for real estate in people's minds, and we're competing for space on their phone, then we have to be able to use the same ways and means, the same avenues that people who would seek to kind of poison us with propaganda. We have to do the same thing, but use the medicine, so to speak. And I witnessed this with my own eyes in my book series that I put out, where I was very careful to put what people would refer to as Easter eggs all throughout the entire series. And when I would go from city to city and state to state and read to children and show them the images in the book, I would point out to the parents the Easter eggs, and you could just see their eyes light up. Wow, that's amazing. The kids don't see it. Subconsciously they see it, but they don't recognize it. They don't know what's happening. But this is what I'm saying. Like, we can't be afraid to use the train tracks they laid, but to carry our own goods and supplies. And we have to be able to do that effectively, or else we're just chasing our tails and we're just spinning wheels, because there's literally an entire machine aimed at suspension of disbelief. And if we go the opposite direction, we'll just be standing there.
Go ahead, brother Tristan. You back now. You can unmute yourself. I know you've been wanting to jump in all night.
I don't know if I don't want to throw the stream off.
Let me see if I get any. You're good. The echo is gone. You solved it.
I don't want to throw the stream off, but someone give me a quick rundown.
You're good. You're good.
I'm good. I wanted to say something because I caught the tail end. I think it was it Brother Frank speaking?
Yep.
Hello, Brother Frank, about the media machine. I think that's one of the things, I guess, to add to that, because also, I was a teaching assistant at Temple, so I've seen the liberal socialization effect on our children. And I've had Umuopara come speak in a class once. I wish I was teaching politics again. I'd have him come through again, because I understood the nature of that socialization. But one of the things I had to do was teaching mass media. It really forced me to really understand the importance for us to deconstruct media. Because I'm one of those people, I'm like, look, I don't want to watch this whatever about Garvey, because I know who it's coming from and I know what the end game is. But when I realize the implications, outside of my, individual circle, you realize like you really have to study these things. You really have to deconstruct, and deconstruction, it's thinking is doing work. Thinking is doing in a lot of ways when you have a political objective, that is. And that's what I would say to that. So I definitely wholeheartedly agree, because that liberal socialization is deadly. Because I've always been, just for more context, I've always been a homeschool advocate, because again, this goes to the examples when you talk about marriage. Some of the reasons why I was ideologically, and Brother Ogbako knows me very well, how our conversations, I was one of those children who, at 11 years old, I'm reading Garvey. For example, even though I don't think I comprehended it, but I just had that idea that, African people were different and we need different things, and white people are the enemy. And in the plantation situation I was in, that's very unique. And I think just the sister was speaking earlier about children. I think one of the challenges I faced in my youth was oftentimes I was the person talking with people older than me. So I'd be talking to like my grandparents' friends, my parents' friends, because, children my age. So it's just finding that peer group and organizing that peer group, I think, is critical. Like, I'm still pretty scarred, but I don't think the way I was is something that I would expect other children to deal with. And just seeing my cousins, 2 younger children I'm very involved with, I see them go through the same thing, similar things, and also getting our people to understand the socialization part, like with the schools, especially when a lot of us, even some of us you'd expect better from, sending their kids to, these very Eurasian environments. I'll stop there and end my stream of thought there, because I think I got the point.
Can I jump in on that? Because
hold on 1 second, because I want to invite Brother Shamari to riff with y'all, because this is a band playing right here, and I know that his matrix analysis, it dovetails well with both of y'all just have put on the table.
All right, help me out. Where am I weighing in here?
Because Brother Tristan was going talking about the homeschooling and the socialization, and it just made me think about, you always talking about, the Nebuchadnezzar was a small operation. So I mean, you don't have to jump in if you kind of like didn't catch what was there, but I just want to make sure I'm including everybody in the conversation.
I mean, but I think that's the key, man. I think going back to, I think the analytics around who do you have right now, right? That's really the question that you have to grab. Who do I have, and is that who I want to have? And am I serving that audience correctly? And be true to that. And then you scale to your other platforms from there, man. This is, you have a message that's not for everybody. And I think that once you're clear about that from a media perspective as well as from an organizing perspective, you got to let that always be a North Star. Everybody's not, the minute the cost of reaching a certain critical mass of audience is the integrity of your message. And assuming you're operating from a place of principle, you shouldn't be willing to make that concession, right? And so the question is, how do I now take my message and get it in proximity to the people who need to hear this because they'll do something about what they're hearing? And that's the whole opposite of the way that the media is constructed right now, right? Entertainment is tries to be as palatable to as many people as possible, but that's not the work of revolution, right? Revolutionary messages don't work like that. And so you got to really always, walk with that balance, man. Because to be honest with you, no offense, the minute it loses the revolutionary fervor, which is what it should be about, it becomes irrelevant. I don't care how many people grab it. If you got to lose it in order for more people to grab it, then it ain't worth having.
Rastafari is a perfect example of this.
Hold on 1 second. I want you to devil's advocate that, because this I feel like the seeds are being germinated right now. So Brother Frank, go ahead and jump in and play. Give me the other side.
So I agree. So it's difficult for me to give you the other side. I would just add the caveat that if the idea is to spread the message efficiently, I won't say quickly, I'll say efficiently, then the goal should be hitting eyeballs. And if we're not disseminating in a way that it's reaching enough people, or in a way that's palatable, I'm not saying to try to be universal in the approach, because that won't work. And even in just standard audience curation, you can't please everybody all the time. You have to find who your core audience is and make sure you're serving them. But all I'm saying is that there has to be an approach that is not what's the word I'm looking for? Like people, the way that we consume media right now, children, and the way that they do it is uniquely different from how we consume media as kids, and they're trained to do it a different way. And all I'm saying is that if we don't institute the same methods, like the same delivery method, I'm not saying that the message is the same, I'm saying that the delivery methods are similar. If we don't have our own apps, if we don't have the way that they are used to consuming information, then they won't consume the information. And we're already at a disadvantage.
I agree with that. But it's interesting. One of the things I like for instance, I grew up on when we had to pay $39, $40 to get an Avis Wilson VCR tape, right, from Transatlantic Publishing, right, $40. And now I watch that same message. Dr. Amos Wilson's been dead. Wow, we were almost working on 30-something years, right? I think about 95 he passed.
94, yep.
But now I watch YouTube or take a snippet. But what I really like is that I forget the group. I think they're out of Canada that turns snippets of his speeches into these animations.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is what I'm saying. That's exactly
right. That's really where the work is. It's not necessarily replicating a new thing or a new show. It's like, okay, if this is the meat, right? If this is the T-bone steak you just experienced, then what are the auxiliary off clicks that you can package and snippet and edit down and put some animation on or put something else on that then give this legs without compromising the essence of the meat or the essence of the nutrition of the meal, right? That's really the thinking, in my opinion. It's not necessarily a new dish, but how do I now chop this nutritious dish up into other ways that it has legs, that it can reach the other types of audiences that we feel is important.
Help me wrestle with this challenge, brother Frank and brother Shamari. And this is the Jay-Z challenge, the dumb it down challenge for the purpose of building a viable economic project that will allow you to then hold influence or sway over, for lack of a better term, the consumer, or let's just say a better term.
You can't do that, man.
The audience.
You present yourself. I don't call it dumbing it down. It's dress it up.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it that way, because you can't dumb it down. You lose the integrity of what you're trying to do the minute you do that. But it is a question of how do I dress it up? You know, it's like it's like how do I might have to add some flavoring to this medicine for a child to like.
Yes, that's it. That's the
Yeah,
word. A
it
spoonful
might
of
have to
sugar.
be cherry NyQuil a little bit, or
Right.
like you said, dress it up a little bit, but you can't dumb it down, man. That's really what I'm pushing back against. Because what I also find, man, we make these assumptions about our audiences and about Black people that are just not true, man. I got brothers on my block right now, straight up hood, you know, which are all people call thugs. But they saw in the moment of the eye of the storm that I walked differently. So when they had questions, they came to me. They didn't understand the Sankofa stuff on my porch, or they didn't understand why I dressed the way I do. But they knew that signaled that I was different than regular. And when they realized that regular didn't work and they had questions, they sought me out. So they come to me, old head, what's the true religion? Old head, what you think about this craziness that's going on out here? So you can't dumb it down, because you got to be a beacon. Beacons shine light. So you gotta, that's your integrity. You can't compromise that.
I don't, when I hear dumb it down, I don't necessarily hear compromising the message. Like that's not. I hear, to my ears, dumb it down is like he said, to sweeten the medicine, a spoonful of sugar, right? So it's like you can give the same message, but to give it in a way that's more palatable. And so you don't at all. You should never deviate from your core principles. Your message is the message, but how you give it, right? So like just a oddball example. My son loves football. My oldest son loves football, but he does not sit down and watch an entire game. He'll watch the highlights on YouTube when it's over, and he'll watch the whole game in like 30 minutes. Whereas I sit down in front of the television, I might watch the whole thing. It's like 3.5 hours. He thinks I'm crazy, because he's like, why would you sit there for 3.5 hours when you could see the same thing in like 34 minutes or whatever it is? And so it's about, for him, it's about efficiency of time. For me, it's like, I'm used to doing it this way. And so it's just, this is what I'm saying, but like dumb it down. No, you definitely got to keep your core message, but you have to find a way to reach the people where they are.
Yeah, I'm with that. And yes, so, and reaching them where they are with what they need, though, and what you offer. And then so I think we're there. And I think when we talked about just the snippets and the animation and the different kind of packages to make it palatable for the people who need it, right? I just think there are ways to do it. But my major thing is that it's not going to be any one program like this. What is now a 2-hour plus conversation. This is probably the smorgasbord, and then the question becomes, okay, now how do I segment this smorgasbord into different things that other people might like? Some people like salad, other people are vegan, some people are vegetarian, some people are meat eaters. How do I chop this array of things into messageables that can then go out? And the messageables are the things that have the track record and the scalability and things of that nature.
True indeed. Yo, I want to add this real quick, and then I'm a bounce because I'm up to my eyeballs and stuff. But before I put out my, I was producing my children's series. I wanted to study popular children's series at the time to kind of see the science of what they had going on. And my youngest daughter was like head over heels with Doc McStuffins at the time. It was all the rage. So I downloaded mad episodes of Doc McStuffins and put it into my video editor so I could break it down frame by frame. When we watch television, most shows, cartoons included, are happening at 30 frames per second. And what that means is that literally in every second, you see 30 images. We don't recognize it that way because it just looks like it's moving and we're seeing one long picture, but we're really seeing a series of images. And as I went through this one particular episode, frame by frame, I noticed something that stuck out. Doc McStuffins had a clock in the room. Now, I know that the end episode that we see is representative of 1 million decisions. Somebody had to hand draw this thing like on their computer, right? Like every single frame is created intentionally. And why her clock was always had one hand pointing at the 6 and one hand pointing at the 9. Every episode, the clock never changed. morning, noon, or night. One hand is pointing at the 6 and one hand is pointing at the 9. Now, I'm not saying that this was a reference to sexual innuendo. I don't know. But I know that in real life, there's no reason for a clock to sit still. And I know it was intentional because in the next episode, the clock moved like normal. So what that caused me to do was to realize, like, to really dig deeper. So I didn't stop at Doc McStuffins. I started looking at other episodes of other popular kids shows, Sesame Street, so on and so forth. And in every show, when you go frame by frame, you can find military grade foolery for absolutely no reason, except for to hit the subconscious of our babies. That's it. That's the only reason. And so when I'm talking about reverse engineering, like using their train tracks, I'm saying the same thing. Like, for example, in an episode that I was putting together, there was a character called the Lunch Lion in my series. And the Lunch Lion was a mythical creature, but his paw prints, when he walks, they leave his little paw prints is Africa, right? Like nobody's ever going to see that in a million years. Nobody's ever going to notice that the Lunch Lion ran by and he left little footprints of Africa, but subconsciously it's there. And other little things. And like, for example, the mother and father in the show, they were always wearing a combination of red, black, and green. They're never on screen where the mother and the father are not wearing red, black, and green, and they're always touching each other in affirmation. He either has his hand around her, like holding hands, or on a park bench. There's love there, and all that was intentional to make sure that what I'm giving them using the same train tracks is meant to edify and uplift, instead of to be perverse and disgusting. And so, what I'm saying when I'm talking about reaching people and being more palatable, I'm not saying to, like, boomerang the message. I'm saying, nah, give them the message, but let's use the same Trojan horses they use to give them foolishness, to give them, the good stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Yo, you were on it. Somebody just said you. Well, I've repeated what they said. Frank is on it. Brother Shamar dropped by accident. But here, yo, I know you got to run, but here I was talking to my wife earlier, right? And she brought up the fact, because we were talking again about content strategy and audience curation and all of that, and she pointed something out to me that I never really tapped into. If you look at the fastest growing platforms on Black YouTube right now, I'm not talking about the ones that are doing like the gender war stuff, but I guess these are Black male platforms, but the majority of them are pushing a neoconservative message. It's like there's like a rise in conservatism among Black people. And not in the way that we've typically seen, like historically, right? But in terms of like, what we consider social norms, I think that Black people have always upheld tradition, right? And like we've never been like really with the funny stuff, so to speak. But in terms of the political ideas and values, and this whole movement of assimilation, Christianity, and capitalism, and those values, like there seems to be rapid growth, within those types of platforms. And when I start to examine the different platforms that are, gaining currency right now in the space, like I was like, yo, you're right. This is what I said to my wife. You know what I mean? Like everybody seems to be on some, new Black conservative stuff. So it's like for somebody like me who has like revolutionary content or Afrocentric or African-centered content, like how do we play in the space where we identify and cultivate our audience?
I don't know that you do. I think that you stay the course, because that the exactly what you're talking about, this phenomenon, it's a overreaction, it's an overcorrection. It's the pendulum swinging. And so if you try to swing with the pendulum, then you're off course. Nah, you just stay solid where you're at. And when the pendulum swings back by, then you'll still be solid. And so that's not something that's going to be that's going to be long lasting. Like that is definitely an overcorrection. And so I don't think that you move to try to be in that space. I think you stay solid and on your square. And when the pendulum swings back, they'll see that you was right in the first place.
Appreciate that, bro. All right, bro. Listen, I know you got to go, man. I appreciate you jumping on. Everybody, give a applause for our producer. That's my producer, Slam Bradley, right there. That just blessed us with his wisdom. You know what I mean? A lot of these conversations we already having behind the scenes, but I figured I would, let him speak to the audience. I just want folks to know, when y'all seeing the production over here, when y'all seeing what's happening on the channel, there are a lot of minds that go into the decisions that we make. And not all the time do my thoughts went out in the process, right? Because I have a team of people who I respect. Shout out to Sister Chelsea Galloway. Appreciate you, sis, for being here tonight. But yeah, not all the decisions that you see like in front of you, right? The things that hit your eyeballs or reach your ears are mine by themselves. And then sometimes like my choice doesn't even win out in the argument. Like I have input from my wife. I have Frank, who's my producer. Then I have Tata. Like, so like we got a little team going on over here trying to figure this thing out. And we at the end of the day, look, there go Tata right there, like right on time. I just said her name. Like at the end of the day, one thing that we committed to was that if we get 5 people watching us or 500,000 people watching us, it doesn't matter as long as we put our best foot forward each time, we come in front of come in front of y'all. So that's what we're doing. I want y'all to know that we are putting effort into this, and we're trying to put our best foot forward each time we come in front of y'all. And like Brother Shamari said, like the concept of even trying to build a media network or apparatus is a really big vision. You know what I mean? But if we're going to reach the different segments of our market and, curate different content for different audiences, I think that we have to be purposeful. So hold on one second. Sister Chelsea Calloway says, thanks for the shout out. Can you post or pin a comment to where we can buy Frank's books as children content? I have your email, sis, because they can't be accessed publicly. But I'll put you two in contact. I'm pretty sure he won't have an issue with that. And because I actually just start reading his children's series to my daughter, and she loves it. And my daughter is 3 years old, by the way. But I'll put you two in contact so that you can get the book or whatever. Family, I'm not going to stay on too much longer. But I do have Brother Razi here, and I know Brother Tristan, you had some comments you wanted to make, so I want to give y'all the chance to say what y'all need to say or whatever before I tap out.
Yeah, man. Listen, bro. I just want to say thanks again, man, for letting me on, man. I heard the discussion earlier, right, from about manhood, basically. Because I was basically what the discussion was about, manhood, right?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, y'all did great, man. Y'all was talking that shit. I was just off to the distance playing some chess, listening to y'all, man. Yeah, dog. It's time for black men to like rise up, man, and do what is necessary, man. We've been for so long, we've been crying and whining and begging and crawling and scraping, trying to get this so-called equality and shit. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Here in America, right? So, you can't ask for equality, right? You can't you can't go to this white man and say, well, I want equality, I want justice. He's never been about justice. He's never been about balance. He's never been about humanity or harmony with other groups of people, especially us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at and you know better than me, right? Because I know you know history better than I do. This white man ain't get along with nobody. You feel what I'm saying? This white man ain't never get along with anybody in history, right? Everywhere he went, it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to think that this white man going to somehow do something nice for
Let's use when you mention him, just say Urugu. It's just so this is African speaking code, bro. And I say this because we gotta also we also fighting against their algorithm, right? Because their algorithm, when they hear you mention certain stuff, they're gonna make sure that the message don't get out, right? So I know who you're talking about, but just just say Urugu. Everybody who's on this page will know who you're talking about when you say Urugu.
Well, Urugu, what you said, Urugu?
Urugu.
Well, this is Urugu. He doesn't play nice.
Mm-hmm.
He might do something nice for the individual black man or woman, but for the collective, he ain't got our best interests at heart, and I don't expect them to have our best interests at heart. And like a brother once said, whoever feeds you controls you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is something I really do remember. Whoever feeds you controls you. And if you look at black men, we're depending on Urugu to feed us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to talk about how our women don't respect us.
Mm.
See, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So
I had to give you a round of applause for that, bro. You on fire tonight, brother Rozzy.
Yeah, man. It's just a lot of things on my chest, brother. It's a big. Oh, okay. Just a minute.
Go ahead.
Just a minute. Okay.
All right, brother Tristan, you want to weigh in here? I'm not sticking around too much longer. I'm about, my wife is there. We got it.
I'll just add just again, the panel. I'll save it for next time because I talk too much. But I want to say something.
Say what you want to
say. But I do want to add something to what Brother Rozzy was saying about Urugu. I have so many words, code words. Anyways, about Urugu. One of the things Ukunini Kambon says, Ubadele Kambon says Ukunini. What he says is the equal sign will kill our people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just says it all. Seeking equality, and then I also think about Jacob Carruthers when he wrote The Irritated Genie and about the Phantom of Liberty, right? I think that's something that's very hard, and I think that's what the liberalism does to us. Is not that conservatism doesn't, but because this form of socialization is the liberalism. And I see it in the young people I've engaged with. They're so socialized into equality to the point they can't think of anything else. So it's anything that of nationalism or much less Pan-Africanism, just to them it's like a mystique to them.
Yeah,
so I think that equality issues, the equality and the human thing, are serious problems.
Absolutely. Yo, brother Tristan, man, I appreciate everybody being here with us tonight. Listen, this is another Manhood Monday. We had a very special Race, Manhood, and Power podcast tonight. It was a live symposium. The topic was on protocols of manhood for sovereign-minded men. Had a few good men, a few solid men pull up to join us for the discussion so that we could talk protocols, talk about sovereignty, nation building, all that good stuff. And we couldn't have had that conversation without you, the audience. So again, a round of applause for you. And as you all know, typically after we have the episode of Race, Manhood, and Power, I always follow it up with a live office hours with Professor Umuopara. So this has been your office hours. Make sure that if you're not subscribed to the channel, you want to subscribe, because all of October we are going to be going in. I have an amazing series lined up for you for the Race, Manhood, and Power podcast. It's called The Souls of Black Folk. I'm going to do a special live next Sunday from Umuopara After Dark. Breaking it down, so you want to be there for that. To all of our audience, thank you. All of our subscribers, thank you. Look, I haven't pressed the button all night. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't been in my kind of like my producer bag. Oh, listen, Chelsea Calloway, congrats to you. She says that was a great topic and a great episode. Thank you so much. We appreciate that and appreciate the support as always. But yeah, next Monday we're starting. We're in October, and we are going to have a special off-topic design for the month of October. It's going to be with our young people, ages 25 to 16. I think we're going for 25 to 14. Thank you, Sister AY. We appreciate your continued support. All right, we're trying to grow, y'all. We're trying to grow as a channel. I need to figure out. No, I don't need. I need to keep doing what I'm doing, right? Because that's what my producer told me to do. Because you know, I told y'all what my analytics are. I have a 90% male viewership and a little under 10% female viewership, and then my average age is like the bulk of my viewers are between the ages of 25 and 44. So I got to create more content. We definitely want Black women to be here as well, because I think that when we're having these conversations about sovereignty, nationhood, family, marriage, we can't have those conversations without Black women. So I appreciate Sister Katie J, who pulled up tonight to ask questions, and any of the sisters who asked questions in the chat. We appreciate y'all as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tap out until next Monday. Always continue to tap in, lock in, and man up. All right. Peace.